Oh, welcome, my friends. Shout out to the great Stone Loki, the magnificent Stone Loki from Valhalla, and of course, Loki's Mornings of Mischief for that intro. I cannot thank you enough, sir, out there. I really appreciate it. You are the man. What a great feller, and I applaud you, sir. Thank you so much. And my guest, my partner in crime, will be here in a little bit, but at first, let me just say hello to some of my dear friends who are already here tonight. I am just so pleased to see you all. I thank you for popping in. The beautiful, wonderful, fantastic Purple Valkyrie. Lovely lady, it is always a pleasure. I thank you so much for being here. He is the king of wrenching. He's the master wrencher, and he is a great fellow and just a great pal, Mr. Chris Persia. Thank you, sir, for being here. Thank you very much. It is great to see you, sir. Good old Douglas Oberg, my new buddy. Man, just a great artist and a great fellow comic book geek. And it was always great to see you there, sir. Smart Steve 68, new buddy of mine, who's been joining us a good bit. And I am pleased to see you here, sir. I thank you so much. I hope you're all hearing me okay, because I have no idea if you are. You see, I have a new oh, thanks, Trish. Well, good. I hope you're all hearing me. I have a new mic that I'm trying out, a new headset here, and I don't know if it's any good or not, but I'm trying to find out, and I will see. So if any of you could tell me, let me know if you're actually hearing me okay. Would be much appreciated. I don't have a sound checker like I used to for a while, at least had in the old blog talk radio days. Chris Persia, thank you. Coincidentally, as I was just mentioning, Chris, my old sound checker, my good friend Tex, who used to ride shotgun as much as he possibly could on my old blog talk radio show, BTR, for 11 years and 700 episodes on that platform, would always say it just like that. Chris, he would say 5 by 5. And that let me know. So I hope it's better than the last one I had. I guess I'll have to listen back. See if, oh, thank you so much, Purple. You sound way better, of course, because you are wonderful. And of course, incidentally, Rise of the Valkyries, of course, is a wonderful channel that Purple Valkyrie and the wonderful Samantha Joe have in mornings. And of course, there's a link to their wonderful show and the shows of Loki and many, many other my very good friends that I have been so fortunate to make here since my move to YouTube back in April. I am so blessed. I've made so many fantastic new friends here. It's just really amazing. I am just overwhelmed with it. I made a few friends, especially in the early days on BTR, on Blog Talk Radio, that I'm still friends with to this day, and that had a lot of fun with all them. But it's nothing like this. It took a while, and it took a while to meet them all. It was really kind of new. And but here, I've already made so many great friends because Fandom Menace is that way. The Fandom Menace is just extraordinary. I feel blessed about that. I'm really grateful. And to meet wonderful people like Valkyrie and the Valkyries, of course, the great Loki and Chris Persia and Doug Oberg. And, of course, my buddy Doomcock, the great Doomcock. He's a great one. Paulie with Latino Slant. What a great pal he has become. I love that man. And just so many others. Noel at the TARDIS Zone and Problem Being, who's done a couple of Blake Seven shows with me and stuff like that. So it's just, it's wonderful. This is the best. This is the best. And a lot of other great friends who have popped in and out of here. Of course, my great buddy Mark C. Well, you and I will be doing the show soon, of course. This coming Saturday will finally. And by the way, shout out to the wonderful Raquel Briggs. She's also wonderful doing shows with me, and I love her. She's an amazing new friend. But Saturday, finally, I meant to do this during Star Trek month. I will be doing Star Trek comics, the history of Star Trek comic books. We all have a lot of Trek fans out there. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. And Star Trek has led a double life because it's been in comic books almost as long as it has been on television. It started right, it was still, there were comics before the original series ended. And it's changed hands many, many times, many, many publishers. And we will just kind of track them a little bit. Some of the shows we've done recently, of course, in a similar vein, a couple of weeks ago, Carlos, who will be joining me here in a bit, That's right. Avon lives. That is right, sir. That's absolutely right. Yeah. But yeah, what a show that I really had. Carlos and I have done a couple of shows on here. We did a show a while back about the brilliant. If you're interested in reading good comics because there are no new ones being made, and you haven't checked some of these things out, some of the shows I've done recently, well, since I've been here on YouTube, Carlos and I did one. It was for the 25th anniversary of what I consider to be one of the, if not the greatest superhero comics ever made. And if you missed that one, it's a comic book called Kurt Busiek's Astro City. It's a wonderful, brilliant comic. If you love superheroes and the superhero genre, it is extraordinary. And we did that back in August, and that's still up here. And that, again, if you learn, it's so brilliant. I cannot stress it enough. I love Astro City. And then last week, Carlos and I talked about the works of Alan Moore. You know, Alan Moore has been in the news a lot lately. And a lot of people make fun of him and pick on him and rail on him and all that kind of stuff. But he's amazing. His work, anyway, his 80s work. And we kind of gave a bit of a timeline of all of his best, you know, kind of his entire career from the early 80s on up to, well, to the right up to the 20th century, almost all of it. We did exclude Lost Girls for reasons. Yeah. But we touched on just about everything. We did mention it. But we went in depth on some of the stuff, the big stuff. You know, everyone knows Watchmen. Everyone knows V for Vendetta, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. We went really, and we talked about those. We also went really in depth on some of the stuff that maybe a lot of people have not read or did not see when it first came out. We covered a lot of it, not just the big stuff like Swamp Thing. Like I said, we did a lot of his stuff, even the obscure stuff. So just so many great comics. The man was just extraordinary. But I wouldn't be here right now if not for a couple of elements of my life. Do any of you ever, I guess I do this because I'm silly, do any of you ever examine your geek origins and think, wow, I wouldn't have all the same friends I have maybe if I didn't go down the geek path at a very young age, 2 years old for me, with the Adam West Batman TV show. That's what was my gateway to geekdom, because I'm old. I know I say it all the time, but now I realize it really aggravates people, so I say it even more because I'm flawed that way. But seriously, I was 2 years old when that show came on the air, or not even 2. And then Batman was the first word I could say because of it, I'm told. But right after that, or not too long after that, I saw a cartoon. And you know what? It's the one picture I forgot to look. But anyway, I saw a cartoon on the air. It was called The Fantastic Four. You know, and there was this weird rock dude on there. Of course, again, it was only a few years old. It was on. There was a Saturday morning cartoon of this, of course, as I'm sure you all are well aware. And well, from then on, I mean, I just fell in love with his character. And of course, all of the FF. I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. And it changed me. Well, yeah, right. I don't know about that. And the world will never be the same. If you read comics, you know that's hyperbole, the way it began. Yes. But of course, later I got a Power Records. I should have put a picture of that up there. But the point being is, I taught myself how to read. I don't know if any of you ever had Power Records. I'm sure some of you are old enough to remember those, where a little book and record, a little 45. Remember those 45 records? Came with a comic book. It was, of course, I found out later, a reprint of a comic book. But it would come with a comic book, and there was a little bitty play, little radio type play, and that's how I learned to read, matching up because I had a lot of reading disabilities, all kinds of learning disabilities as a child. And it's comic books that and book and records things that really helped me learn how to read. And the Fantastic Four was my favorite of those. Was the Fantastic Four? It was a reprint of their origin, or actually a reprint of a redo of their origin by drawn by John Buscema, redrawn from the Kirby issue number 1 of FF. Called, it was from Fantastic Four 1 26, and of course it was the way it began. And that is what really just made me fall in love with the character of the Things. Yes, Peter Pan Records is basically what they were. They were changed to that later, Smart Steve. Originally, they were Power Records. Maybe it's vice versa. But the early ones in the early 70s were Power Records. And later they changed them to Peter Pan. They did some Star Trek ones as well, which we'll talk about next week. So the Thing, this rock guy, this weird guy made of orange, why is he so popular and important? I would submit to you, not just because he's my favorite. Look, let's be clear about this. If you're a superhero fan of the genre, whoever your favorite is, Superman is the ultimate. He's the big kakuna. He's the big guy. He's the very first costume superhero. He is the granddaddy of them all and is the greatest superhero for that alone. He's yet my second favorite of all time. Batman's my third favorite. Batman is the most important costumed hero. Non-powered superhero, and he's a superhero in a sense. Batman is my third favorite, believe it or not. But Benjamin Jacob Grimm, the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing, a tough Jewish kid from Hell's Kitchen who grew up in a very bad neighborhood, went on to be a big man on campus, football star, a jet pilot, a war hero, all those things. And he got it all. Steve Mitchell, my great friend, is here. Good to see you, buddy. Ben Grimm had it all. But the FF, of course, Reed Richards and Sue kind of talked him. Yep, Yancey Street indeed, man. You got it. Talked Ben into piloting his test rocket to beat the Russians into space. See, if they make a modern day movie, you're really going to make it a period piece because a lot of that plot, it doesn't work anymore. The plot of their origin that way. And I think it should be a period piece anyway. Nevertheless, cosmic rays on that fateful trip transformed these four individuals. And as you all know, you all know the story. And it turned Ben Grimm into an orange pile of rocks. In a very lumpy one, as a matter of fact. Ben, went through a lot of transformations, as you can see early on. Let's see if he's coming in here. I got to. Sorry, still waiting on Carlos, but he'll show up. He'll be here. He'll be here late, probably as always. There's the idiot right now.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
What's up?
I had a bunch of things to do, but I'm here. I'm ready.
It was just starting out, and
okay,
I could always use your memory.
Sure.
What we will basically do is, everyone, this is Skydos.
Hello.
I just started out talking about Ben, of course, the great Ben Grimm. As you know, my favorite character. And what we will basically do is surprise. I know you're just shocked. I know you forgot all about that.
What?
Who my favorite character was. See? There you go. You already forgot again.
You of course, you of course love Benjamin J. Grimm, alias the Thing. He's one of your favorite characters. Of course, Batman is your number one because
Batman is my favorite character. No, Batman is number 3.
Oh, really?
Remember, it's the Thing. It's Superboy / Superman, and then it's Batman.
That's right. For some reason, you like Superboy. I never liked Superboy. I don't know.
Because you're a moron.
No,
he's a moron, folks. But
he was part of the Legion, and I thought that every time Superboy appeared, he took away from my favorite character in the Legion, and of course, his name is Jonah, alias Ultra Boy, my favorite Legionnaire.
We'll cover out that in our Legion show.
Sure. Now, of course, I love the Thing, but I learned to love him. I didn't like him at first because he was an ugly superhero, and I have this thing that, like, the superheroes, the heroes that I like are usually, like, good looking, very superhero-like, very you know, how can you say, like very macho, very you know, handsome, you know, like Batman, Green Lantern, a Cyclops, Wonder Man. You know, they're good-looking heroes. And of course, my favorite member of the Fantastic Four was, of course, Johnny Storm, because he was, you know, the good-looking guy, the chick magnet. He had a very cool power. You know, he had cool cars, you know, and stuff like that. But the more I got to know the Fantastic Four, you just gotta love the Thing, because there's not a more noble character in the
Oh, we'll be
entire
getting into that.
Marvel Comics.
What
You
we'll
know,
do, everyone, is we'll start from the beginning.
Sure.
And we'll talk about some of, well, we'll just kind of go over some of his history, because I know you like doing that. And we'll talk some of his best stories.
Yes,
How's that sound?
I was remembering a few stories that are not part of the Fantastic Four.
Oh, no.
But are part of other comic books. And there's especially one that's like an annual of Marvel 2-in-1.
We're going to get there. Hang on.
My God, I love that.
We're going to get, dude, you think I wouldn't be ready with that one? That's one of the greatest Ben stories ever. So
one of the best. And there's I don't know, I'm just going to mention the title. You probably know it. It's a beautiful cover. It's a beautiful inside. It's a very fun story. Marvel Fanfare.
Oh, yeah, we got that. Dude, it's me. That's all. That's loaded up. Yeah. You know that.
This I know. And of course, I think I may have done something that you did not do. And that is, I've read the entirety of John Byrne's Thing series.
Oh, I'm gonna need you on that one, because I remember I was pissed off at that, but I read a lot of it, but you remember shit you read. This is different. It's been long, dude. That's been 1983, dude.
Read them all.
You read them recently, though, yeah?
No. I read them when they came out, and so I do remember them. And there's a funny little Marvel graphic novel with Thing and Hulk.
It's Jim Starlin and Bernie writes it. Jim Starlin wrote it. The big change. We'll get there. Oh yeah, man.
Fun.
No, it's great.
Fun story.
That's wonderful. Fun man. A lot of fun. Just reread that recently, actually.
Fun story. So
but yeah, no. I'm gonna run through a few things here. Kind of put up as many pictures as I could.
Sure.
The Thing, though, obviously first appearance. And again, one of the things I wanted to set up for everyone, I will make this. We'll comment on this as we go along, but I will make this bold statement. As I just before Carlos got here, I talked a little bit about Superman and Batman being the two big, the big two. It's the way Marvel and DC are the big two when it comes to publishers. Superman and Batman are the two biggest, most important superheroes of all time. No question about it.
I really do believe they set the standard for everything that came before. I mean, after.
But I would make the case, as far as Marvel Comics are concerned, the most important character in Marvel Comics is Ben J. Grimm, the Ever-Loving Blue-Eyed Thing. Not because he's my favorite. I'm going to tell you why, everyone, if you don't know. The reason why Marvel Comics, now Disney that owns them, has made billions upon billions of dollars is obviously because of Marvel Comics, but there would be no Avengers, Spider-Man, Thor, Hulk, none of them, without the Fantastic Four, the success of the Fantastic Four comic, number 1, 2, and 3, in those early issues. And the Fantastic Four comic, look, I love them. They're my favorite crew. I love Reed Richards. His powers, ripped off. I love Johnny Storm. His powers, ripped off.
Yes.
I love Sue Storm Richards. Her powers, ripped off. Love them anyway. They're great. A lot of characters' powers are ripped off. So in the Gold, in the Silver Age things. That's fine. Not a criticism. They just did what they had to do. The Thing is a monster superhero. Like you just pointed out, superheroes in costumes. They look like, super muscular, perfect human specimens. Usually when people got turned into monsters in almost all of fictions, almost always, they did what? They became monsters. They became monsters because they looked like monsters. In the early issues of Fantastic...
A really good example would be Two-Face.
Right.
When Two-Face gets disfigured he immediately becomes a villain.
Yes.
Even though he was a good guy before.
Exactly. Good guys turn into monsters when they get disfigured or something like that. In the early issues of the Fantastic Four, a lot of people don't know, but in the early issues, Ben walked that abyss. He was bitter. He was angry. He was scary. And he was pissed off at Reed. And he felt like a monster. And he scared people. People thought he was a monster at first. And because he looked like one. He looks like one, of course. And that had never been done with a superhero before. To that extent, in that way, in any way. That was the genius of the character that Kirby put in there, that Lee helped a little bit with, but it was mostly Kirby doing most of the creating of the character. He kind of put himself into the character a lot. And that's what made this book successful. A lot of other elements, don't get me wrong. The whole team contributed. But Ben, made that book what it was because he added a dimension that had not been seen in a superhero comic like that. And of course, the early success of the Fantastic Four is what allowed Marvel to expand and create their whole universe. And of course, the rest is history, is it not? Comic book history, anyway.
Well, let me tell you something. It's gonna sound silly, but maybe I was very young. Maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe just by growing up with the Fantastic Four, I just took it for granted. But I never understood just how important Ben Grimm was. Comic books in general, not just to the Fantastic Four, not just to Marvel, but just the comic books in general, to have this, white knight that looks like a monster. Until I read I think even you gave it to me. It was a Fred Hembeck book, if you remember Fred Hembeck.
Oh, God, yeah, Bob Hembeck. That's true, yeah.
He would do all these columns and articles all drawn by him. And they were usually funny or had a really fun sense of humor. And he would do it for different publications, right? And they would all be black and white.
That's right, yeah.
And he knew a lot about comic book history. And the way he explored it was just a lot of fun. More or less what Fred Van Lente did with his comic book comics that came out a while ago that were really, really, really funny. And I remember one time I was reading one of the Fred Hembeck things, the strip, I think you may call it. And he was talking about the importance of the Fantastic Four. And he was very specific about the importance of the Thing and how every superhero or superheroic character that came before him, they were all good looking. They were all just very, like you would expect a hero to look like, be it Robin Hood or King Arthur, Zorro, the Shadow, Doc Savage, even though the Shadow may look, kind of, I'm not going to say ugly, but kind of like just, very intense. It's only like what you call a mind of villains, but in reality, he's Lamont Cranston, a very good-looking playboy. So or Kent Allard, where how are you going to go? How are you going to go? Depending upon what moment in his life. But they were all good-looking. Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, and the first ugly superhero, the first disfigured superhero, was Ben Grimm. He took everything that life gave to him. The horrible visage. His heart was so noble.
After being used to be a big, good-looking, muscle-bound football star and all that stuff too.
And a war hero.
War hero.
Football star, war hero. Yes.
Yeah.
He
so he had it all. It wasn't like he was a regular schmuck before that. I mean, he was, had a pretty good life he was looking at. That's a key element.
And the thing is, he turns ugly. And at first, like you said, he's bitter and he's angry at life. But the heroic side of him, this amazing heart, this beautiful, amazing heart, this noble heart, will not let him turn into a villain or use his powers for evil. And if you look at someone like Dr. Doom, when Victor Von Doom first, he was shown up by Reed Richards, and then he had a slight disfiguration because, you know, depending on who you talk to, Stanley or Jack Kirby,
Right.
after the explosion, according to Jack Kirby, it would just be like a little tiny blemish.
Yep. And that's all it took with his ego, his vanity.
Yeah, and he turned evil just because he was proven wrong, and because he had a slight blemish on his you know, beautiful visage, he turned evil. And the thing, his entire body, he stopped being human, and yet he became even more of a human.
Yeah.
And the thing is, nobody can see it. I mean, his friends love him for who he is because they're his friends and have always been his friends. But, you know, the people that meet him always see the monster first, except Alicia. The blind person
Oh yeah.
sees,
I love Alicia.
sees more than anybody. And I remember I read that comic book in Spanish. Long story. when I got here to Mexico, the first appearance of Puppet Master, the first appearance of Alicia Masters.
Yes.
And the moment she sees him, well, you know, gets close to him, hears his voice, touches him, she sees the heart of a hero. You know, she feels the nobility that comes off him. And in fact, in one of those early issues when Alicia and Ben were going out, she does, you know, she's a sculptress, and she does a sculpture of a white knight. And she says, "This is how I see you, Ben." And it's beautiful white knight, and shows it to him. And this is you. To me, this is you. And he doesn't see it himself, but this amazingly wonderful woman sees that side of him. Which, you know, even though I really enjoy the John Byrne Fantastic Four, when he broke up Ben and Alicia, I was like, oh my God, why is he doing this to me?
He's an a-hole.
It should not happen. That just like Sue Storm and Reed Richards are meant to be together, Ben and Alicia are meant to be together. It just kills me when that happened. So, you know, even though the lame story that Tom DeFalco came up with later with making Alicia scroll and all that stuff, I didn't like that story either, but at least it freed up Alicia to be back with Ben. And for some reason, she was not back with Ben, and she went off with the Silver Surfer for a while. It's like,
yeah, it was really awful. I was kind of checked out by then.
Thanks to Fred Hembeck, I was able to understand just how important the thing was.
Puppet Master's niece, actually, Smart's niece.
Excuse me?
I would say Alicia's his niece, not his daughter. Puppet Master.
Well, from what I remember, she's his adopted daughter.
Adopted daughter. She called him uncle, though.
I believe it was always
adopted
adopted father.
So
that's what I remember.
Jester, thanks for popping in here, man. Thanks. Good to see you, sir. So,
you know,
one of the things about the character
things later happen, and things later happen, and maybe it turned out that it was the uncle. But from what I remember in that first issue,
a daughter. Adopted daughter was all. Yeah, you're right.
And for some reason, if you remember that first appearance, for some reason, Alicia is supposed to look exactly like Sue Storm if they put a blonde wig on her. Oh God, those 60s Fantastic Fours, they were
Matthew Anderson, thank you for popping in. No, Smart Steve, actually it was a character named Sharon Ventura that became the female thing. We won't get into that right
now. Sharon Ventura, she was first Miss Marvel. She was the second Miss Marvel?
She was the second Miss Marvel, then she became
then she became the thing. Yeah. Well, you know, I didn't
some bad stuff.
Sharon Ventura, she was first. Her first appearance was in Battle World, if you remember, after the Secret Wars.
Oh yeah, well I dumped a lot of those books at that point.
Yeah, well, I read them all. After the Secret Wars, things stayed in Battle World, you know, and he was having adventures, and he met this like warrior woman who looked just like Sharon Ventura, and it turned out to be just like figment of his imagination. It's a long story. And then when he came back to Earth, he met the real woman of his dreams, which was Sharon Ventura, and he kept following her, but she was never interested in her until she gained superpowers through the power broker. I don't know if you remember the whole thing with the power broker.
Yeah,
No.
I know of it, but I did not read the book. You know, I dropped a lot of that crap at that point. It was really bad.
What happened
was, the whole
was,
book was terrible at that point.
in the Thing comic, they introduced the unlimited class wrestling federation, where a bunch of people with superpowers, or like at least super strength, would be wrestlers. And the Thing joined this. He became a wrestler. So what happened was, this guy called Power Broker, he would give superpowers to, different people for money, and it was usually just super strength, resistance, and of course invulnerability. And he gave it to Sharon Ventura, and then she was kidnapped by the Power Broker, and she was held prisoner, and she was raped multiple times. And then, what can I tell you? And then she detested the touch of men, but she could stand the touch of Ben Grimm, because to her eyes, he's not a man. Now, this is the woman that Ben thought was better than Alicia, was the woman of his dreams. And then later, during the Englehart run on Fantastic Four, they went through cosmic rays, and the Thing became more of a thing. He had the little spiky.
Stegosaurus crap. Yeah.
Yes, and then and Sharon Ventura, Ms. Marvel, became the She-Thing, and then I forget what there was. I think they were trying to make Sharon Ventura a human again, but in the end, they made the Thing human again, and the Thing was Ben Grimm, and Sharon Ventura stayed as the She-Thing. And then that's when Walt Simonson started writing it again. And then, if I'm correct, Dr. Doom cured Sharon Ventura, and then Thing had to turn into the Thing again. And that was all the Walt Simonson run, which was kind of confusing. It was not my favorite run.
Well, one thing I want to go through here is,
yes,
during the obviously the first 102 issues of the Fantastic Four, the character was drawn by his creator, pretty much exclusively, Jack King Kirby. And his appearance went through a lot of evolution. If you all look here, I mean, again, that's another thing about this character. His face, his whole outward appearance, just developed over time, and he started becoming less lumpy, as you see, and somewhere towards in the issues, like in the 30s and 40s of the issues, especially with like in the late issues 40s, when the great Joe Sinnott came along and really defined with his inks over Kirby the best look. We finally get the one that people know. Because a lot of people, unless they read the early issues of the FF, they don't know, or Strange Tales a little bit. They don't really know the lumpy one as much. They see it a little bit, but he was kind of lumpy for a good little while there. And it again just changed progressively over time.
The thing is, like, to me, my first memory of the Thing was as Rocky Ben Grimm, because like here in Mexico, it was kind of weird.
Oh yeah.
When we first got Fantastic Four comic, it was around the George Perez era. Okay. And then it got to the point that we went back to the beginning. You see what happened?
Sure. Oh yeah, well, depends on what you jumped on with all the reprints and different things like that. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like in Mexico, of course, we got comics way later. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened was that you know my memory. I was around 5 or 6, and I remember clearly reading in Spanish. That time, the the Frightful Four took over the Baxter Building, and they had Fantastic Four Prisoner, and they were conducting tryouts. And that's the introduction of Captain Ultra, the superhero who has every power that you can imagine. But of course,
he was great. He's right. Fire.
And then and then Tigra comes out there, and then she helps the Fantastic Four get free, and they all fight the Frightful Four. Well,
Right.
I remember reading that, right, and then they canceled the Fantastic Four for like a few months, and then they started again from #1. Okay, and I remember I did not read #1 or number 2, but I read #3, and I tried to get every Fantastic Four that I could from #3 on. So I got to read the Miracle Man story. I got to read. That's when the first time they wore their costumes. I got to read. I think it was number 10.
Yeah.
I think it was number 10 when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby appear in the comic
on the cover. That's right.
Right, they appear on the cover, and for some reason, Reed has this kind of like scowly face, and it turns out that it's Dr. Doom taking over his body and blah blah blah. So I got to read. Well, I first got to see the Rocky Bender, which is my favorite, of course, and then I got to see the Lumpy one, and I didn't understand why until it was later explained. It was later explained that it was more like like a whatchamacallit, like dinosaur skin.
Yeah.
So kind of got that, but the Rocky Ben Grimm was always my favorite, and I'm glad they did the whole thing.
Oh,
you know, just going little by little, experimenting and getting it better and better and better. And one thing that I do like that John Byrne did with the Thing, especially, I remember reading something that he mentioned, that it got to the point, and like around late 70s, early 80s, it got to the point that when they were drawing the Thing, it was getting to be very rounded. His face was very rounded, his body was very rounded, and he looked, I'm not saying attractive, but he looked kind of like adorable, kind of like a teddy bear type. And John Byrne said, that the Thing should never look just that symmetrical. And he tried to draw him in a way that he looked a little bit more rougher around the edges. And he said that that he thought of a starfish when he would draw the Thing, so he didn't look so rounded. And I thought that was very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things about the Thing, of course, is they did fiddle with it a lot, and they did one of the characters who just experimented with this look all the time, even after Kirby. They did it quite a bit here with John Buscema, if you see right there, and it was kind of fun, but is, even though obviously Kirby is always my favorite Thing artist. We'll talk about a lot more about that. I love this Perez thing. What's a common thread through all of this? This is Perez here. I love this issue. This is oh my god, this is 175.6. But yes, Joe Sennett.
I read that in Spanish before it was canceled and went back to the beginning. Yeah. I didn't know who the Impossible Man was, and then many years later, when I got to the United States, starting GRIMM or kind of this comic books, I would read like the Marvel Universe. Remember the official handbook of the Marvel Universe?
Sure.
I would read those, and by reading the stories of all the heroes and villains and whatever, I would go, wait a second, I remember that. And then I would track down the issue, and in my head, I had the images. And then when I would read the issue, I go, yes, I read this when I was 5. I read this when I was 7. It's fun to have a really good memory because it's kind of like you get to live certain childhood memories again. It's fun.
Well, it works for me, man. Before we go on to some of Ben's greatest stories, everyone, we're going to talk about Ben's greatest rival.
Okay.
Because you can't really do the Thing justice without, of course, he slugs it out with a lot of people, as you all know. Can't really do him justice without his best buddy in the world. Just kidding. Johnny Storm is his best buddy in the world. His best rival in the world. And because he's got to have somebody to slug it out with.
Yes.
Thing Hulk battles are iconic. I know you're not supposed to use that word anymore, but they are.
And the thing is,
So to
with
speak.
this rivalry, is it is canon all over the place. Hulk is stronger. The Hulk is the strongest one there is.
Yes.
But what Hulk doesn't have is Ben Grimm's heart. He has the heart of a champion. He will never lay down. He will never back down. Yeah. The man has no fear. He will confront. He will fight Galactus barehanded if need be. He never backs down. He never gives up. No matter how much he gets beaten down by the Hulk, because the Hulk's way powerful, the thing will always get up. And he will
you should mention that.
Try.
That's Ben threatening Galactus. In the first story, and even Reed said, "Yeah, like you have a chance against him." But he'd do it too. He did it many times. He attacked Galactus.
Well, I remember the first time they fight the Galactus, the Thing tries to use his strength with Silver Surfer. Not. You remember Galactus has a a robot called the Punisher, and the Punisher beats the stuffing out of the Thing, but the Thing keeps getting up. He just will never go down for the count. That's the one thing I love. I love that about Ben. He teaches us as kids a good lesson. Never give up, never surrender.
Never surrender. Eric K, great to see you, my friend. Well, Steve Mitchum mentions the first time he ever got an FF comic they were fighting on the Arch. It would be this one. Steve Mitchum. God, I love this comic. Yeah, it was one of my first as well. So, yeah, so the St. Louis Arch. Yeah.
Well, my favorite. Yeah. Go ahead. Because
no, I was going to say.
Yeah.
You probably do. Well, with your memory, you still might not remember this. I went to St. Louis back in the early '90s.
When you kept saying number one, the Arch.
Yes, and well, my then wife, and you can understand why she's not married to me now when you hear this story, folks. We went into the Arch and we were talking, and she kept getting really embarrassed because I kept talking about how the Thing and the Hulk fought on the Arch here, and that's why, because it was under construction. And I was saying, yeah, well, because Thing and the Hulk fought on this sucker, and really loud, where people were giving me real weird looks and stuff. But it was true. It happened.
I don't know how she stayed married to you as long as she did, But
9 years is a pretty tough stretch. Yeah, that was a long time ago, man.
Man, I remember that. I remember there was a time it was hard to be your friend too. Damn.
I don't.
We're not gonna go into that, but even I remember. God.
This is the first meeting, though, of Thing Hulk.
You probably have my favorite battle between them two.
I might have it up here. We'll see.
Around that, it's when the Fantastic Four and the Avengers unite forces to stop the Hulk.
Oh, yeah. I could probably put that on here.
Great.
It really was. I mean, look, just Thing Hulk battles, dude. It just...
And
I thought I'd put it up here.
Just the art.
Oh, look. Yeah, look, man.
That's the one. God, I love that.
Oh, my God.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Because it just shows you how powerful... Shows you how powerful Hulk is, that it takes that many heroes to stop him. And it just shows you just how invincible Thing's heart is. All these heroes couldn't, pull down the Hulk, but the Thing will always be the first one there. He will always be the one to cross that line and say, "I'm here. I will not back down." You gotta love that.
Oh yeah, this is my buddy of mine, the great artist Steve Scott. I remember when he was so happy to show this comic years ago when he did it, because he knew how knows how I feel about the Thing and Thing Hulk battles and that. And he did that. Remember the old Marvel, the old young readers line they did, those old comics that Marvel did for I guess 90s for the Marvel Adventures line, whatever. But yes, and again some more Thing Hulk art right there. You can't talk about the Thing without talking about his best rival, in his fights with the Hulk. Look at all these comics. I mean, there were more than these, by the way, but these were some of them right here. God, I just love them.
They were always very memorable. If that's the one thing you have to say, I mean, they were always memorable. They were never boring.
No, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Thank you, Eric K. Again, the great Eric K. Always happy to see you here, my friend. Thank you so much. Let's see here, but yeah, Hulk thing with, and that may as well take us into because we're going to start talking about some of his greatest stories, the Thing's greatest stories, and this was a fun one when they were doing the old Marvel graphic novel series. Jim Starlin, Bernie Wrightson, The Big Change. Don't worry, we'll double back to the big one. Don't get me wrong.
It does not change the world, but it's just a fun story. And the art is beautiful. Yeah. And I remember the thing that stuck to me the most about this comic book. They go to this kind of like different dimension, and they have to like help people out, and they have to like hide like in plain sight. So like the Thing is wearing like this like robes and hood to hide his identity, and Hulk just hits this kind of like squid or like octopus alien
on his head.
Did it in his head, on his head,
right?
And the Thing says, "Are you an idiot? Everybody's gonna recognize you." He goes, "No, I'm hiding." And then they meet the guy that they're supposed to meet, and even though like Thing is wearing all these robes and like a hood and whatever, the guy recognizes him immediately. He goes, "Thing, what? Blah blah." He goes, "Who's your friend?" He goes, "It's a Hulk." "Oh my God, Hulk! I didn't recognize you." It's such a stupid little moment.
It was so silly.
It made me laugh so much.
And you know, we were talking a little bit about the Thing, just slugging it out with people. This was one of the great Hulk Thing fights, and he was totally mismatched down right here.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and, that was a really good great. If I remember correctly,
fun. Yes, go ahead.
If I remember that one correctly, the Silver Surfer, of course, he's exiled on Earth. He can no longer ride spaceways. He's very depressed.
Yep. This was very close to right after the first Galactus.
Right, and you know the Silver Surfer was always depressed, and the only human he knew was Alicia, because she's the one that made him turn against Galactus. You know, she saw her, talked to her, appreciated humanity. She woke up the human side of him that was so long dead, or you know, after being with Galactus for so long. And then he goes to see her because he needs, you know, guidance, and he needs someone to someone to confess to or just to talk to. And the thing gets there. Of course, he acts like a jealous friend, just like
he was
many
so
of us do. And they start fighting for no reason, which is such a Stan Lee, Jack Kirby thing to do. And yeah, exactly.
And he knocks the Silver. I mean, look, Silver Surfer's power cosmic, but he doesn't want to hurt Ben. And if Ben gets a shot at you and you're not ready, well, you get a Kirby knock. That's one of Kirby's greatest panels. That's one panel. It looks like it's moving. He made things
great. But you know, for some reason, he was, of course. That's why he's the king. But the thing is, I remember the one thing that really stuck with me in this issue. The fight is fantastic, but you know how petty Ben Grimm be. He hits him, and then he grabs the board and he wants to break the Silver Surfer's board.
He's pissed, man. He's a jealous bastard.
Yeah, I know, but I just enjoyed that. You know that it's not enough to hit him so hard that he knocks him right out of the house. He has to break his things too. But it's such, I remember, like I mentioned before, Fred Van Lente did these comic books that I recommend a lot. They're called comic books. It's the history of comic books, and he does like a special issue about Jack Kirby, and how Jack Kirby, he loved to fight so much that he'd go to different neighborhoods just to pick fights, to see how the people from different neighborhoods in New York would fight. So he would know the different styles of fighting of the different neighborhoods of the different gangs. And I'm like, no wonder he made the thing such a feisty guy, because it was just like him. People talk about Mary Sue's all the time. I think in a way, Jack Kirby, like his alter ego in the comic books was, of course, Ben Grimm. I see a lot of that young Jack Kirby in Ben Grimm.
Yes, indeed. He put so much of himself in there. Absolutely. Did a lot of, and then he got his fill in fighting in the war. And by the way, as an aside, any of you fans of Kirby out there, if you just want to see a really fascinating documentary, I think it's still on Amazon Prime. It's called Kirby at War. It talks about it. It's about his wartime experiences and how it affected his art later. It's really great. It's amazing. You should all check that out. It truly is amazing. 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. Thanks for popping in, my friend. Great to see you here, sir. Appreciate that. Well, let's just go ahead and tackle the big one as far as theme stories are concerned.
Okay.
This is not. This is a great thing comic book. I should correct myself. In a sense, it's theme centric, but this is a Reed Richards story in a way. In a sense,
but also I think
it's about Ben, but it's really about.
But to put this into context, this is a very personal story, and it involves the characters, and it concentrates on the characters, their discoveries, their wants, their needs, their feeling. And the thing is, if I'm correct, this is coming right after them fighting God.
Yeah, right after Galactus.
Right after Galactus, and I think this was very smart of Lee and Kirby. After doing this huge, epic battle with one of the most powerful creatures in the entire universe, instead of trying to top that, they went personal. They went, let's get to know these characters even more intimate.
This is one of the greatest comic books of the Silver Age of all time. Of all comics.
To me, I think the one thing that sticks, it is not the power. It is the man behind the power that matters. Because here, people who haven't read this, a man steals the thing's superpower and he becomes a thing, but he uses that power for evil. Does not use that power for good, and that is the most important thing. It doesn't matter how much power you have, it's how you use it. What do you use it for? It is the lesson that Peter Parker learned. He had the power, and he was using it for self-gain. And of course, that came with consequence, and the consequence is that he lost his uncle. And then he learned how to use that power for good. And that is the lesson that I get from this comic. This guy steals the thing's power. He does not use it as he should.
No, he hates Reed Richards, and he's using it. This guy is he's warped by bitterness and jealousy because he doesn't even know Reed Richards, but he thinks he's some big self-aggrandizing show-off, and he just wants to take him down a peg. He wants to use the thing's powers because he never accomplished shit in his life. And it's a classic envy story, but when he learns about what Reed is, as you can see here, it's beautiful. It's a redemption story as well, but that's not Ben right there. So we won't spoil it. If anyone ever want to read this comic, but yeah. Look at that curve. Love it. Well, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening to you.
No,
I know it's your favorite comic book of all time, so I wanted you to, wax poetically about it.
Well, I will tell you this: I have mine signed by the great Jack Kirby himself. That's, as you well know.
Yeah, it is.
Right on the splash page. That's not the page there. I just took that at the end. Yeah, I got to dig it up. So, Ben J. Grimm, the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. Let's see here. See what the chat's saying real quick. Yeah. Canadian Spider-Man does whatever a Canadian spider can. My friend, good to see you. Thank you for popping in, buddy. All right, man. I'm glad to see you here. Thank you so much. Beyond the Kirby era, there was still a lot of, a lot of development for Ben. Well, I showed a picture earlier they were still, long after Kirby left, they were still messing around with trying to turn him back into Ben Grimm. And there was a short time when he could actually control the transformation, which didn't last long.
That is the one thing that I always thought was kind of like putting, salt in the wound. The one thing that I love that Alan Moore did with Swamp Thing is that all those first issues by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson, Alec Holland kept trying to become human again, and kept trying. Same thing with the Hulk. I mean, with the Hulk and the Thing, and everybody that has a transformation, they try to become human again, right? And the thing that I love that Alan Moore did, he was never human. He could never go back to being human because he was just a plant that thought he was human, right? And in a way, that's the same thing that Peter David did with Bruce Banner. He said, you got to stop trying to become Bruce Banner again, because after all the gamma radiation, you were supposed to be the Hulk. The only difference is that because your transformation took place outside, and were like, the rays of the sun were affecting you, that's why you could turn back and forth. But you're supposed to always be the Hulk, much like every other gamma ray creation. Their stable side is the Hulk, like the leader, and what's his face, Abomination, etc., right? Doc Samson, one of my favorite characters. So that's the thing that they never did with Ben Grimm. There was always the hope of him turning back to human, always the hope of him turning back to human. And every time that hope was dashed, another writer would come in and they would give him that option again. I don't know if you remember John Byrne, kind of like give it a reason why he could never turn back into Ben Grimm. Do you remember that, or have you erased everything that John Byrne ever did?
No, remember, I liked the first couple of years. I even liked it when he put him back, that throwback to making him lumpy for a while. I liked those. I was fine. I liked this first few years. Yeah.
Right.
It's later that it really got bad.
What happens when he turns lumpy back again during the John Byrne years is Reed finally had found out how to turn Ben Grimm human, period. He puts him in the machine, the process starts, and then there's feedback, right? And then he turns lumpy. And then a few issues later, Franklin Richards kind of like lets loose his power, and he becomes an adult, and he becomes super powerful. And then he needs to let go of all that power and become a child again. And the thing is, they're trying to decide what to do with all that extra power that Franklin has. And Reed says, well, what you can do is you can use all this cosmic energy that you have and put it into your Uncle Ben, and he will turn back human again. And of course, Franklin reads his Ben Grimm's mind, and he's about to do it, and he turns him rocky again. But he does not turn him fully human. And Reed lies to him and says, oh, it's just because there was not enough energy to turn you back human. But in reality, what Franklin found out when he touched Ben Grimm's mind was that he does not want to turn back human, because he's afraid that if he turns fully human, Alicia won't love him again. Because he fears that she's only in love with his rocky self. And I thought that was just amazing, to give him an inferiority complex that bad, that he does not believe he will be loved if he's human. And he's also like afraid that nobody, like the human race won't love him if he's like Rocky, but the woman he loves won't love him back if he's fully human. So the man is like between a rock and a hard place. And I thought that was just brilliant what John Byrne did, because that way he's stuck in his Rocky form forever, and that was fine. And then of course Secret Wars comes along, and Jim Shooter just decides that he can turn human again for no reason, and then John Byrne has to write it all again. And during those issues where he's stuck in Battleworld, he fights his human self, and he has to kill his human self in Battleworld, and that again makes him be stuck in his Rocky form forever. He will never turn back human again, and then he becomes the what would you call it?
Stegosaurus. The Thingosaurus, I always called him. Oh God, I hate that stupid.
When he's so spiky,
shit.
When he's so spiky during.
Good God, yeah.
During Stephen
crap. That was Englehart, yeah, right? Wasn't it?
That was that was Englehart. I like that run. It had a lot of good stuff, but yeah, that look was not my favorite. That was not my favorite.
Yeah, the hell with that. I didn't put any pictures of that crap stuff. Right. By the way, Christmas is getting close. Have a Christmas thing, everyone. But
and after that, he becomes human again. So that's the problem, you know. Even though one writer establishes that he cannot turn back human again because, you know, he should just accept, you know, his reality. Yeah. For some reason, another writer comes along and turns him human again, and you get that dichotomy again, you know, the back and forth. And I think somebody suggested. Oh, I know. But, you know, I thought it was very brave what Alan Moore did. And he said, okay, that's it. Alec Holland will never be human again, period. He never was a human. And then the same thing with what's-his-face, The Thing by Peter David. You know, at least when Peter David wrote, he says he can never be Bruce Banner again because his normal form is the Hulk. And that, I think, helps mature the character. Okay, it doesn't fundamentally change the character, but you take away something that becomes just an easy plot point that you can use over and over again, like having Alec Holland look for his humanity could become boring after a while. And the same thing with Reed trying to cure the Thing, because it gets to the point where Reed is now an idiot because it's been, I don't know, 100 or so issues where he tried to cure the Thing and he can't. Then how can he be the smartest man on the Marvel Universe if he can't cure his best friend? You see what I'm saying? So I thought it was good. It was good that he could never turn back human because of a mental block he placed on himself. I thought that was just a brilliant way to just take that away, you know?
There's your answer. I hate to be a spoiler, but there's your answer. Canadian Spider-Man or the Thing and Hulk friends in the end. You have to read the story to find out why, but as you can see, Ben's a little, and the reason why Ben is a little hilarious, I won't spoiler, because it's, I mean, why he's a little pissed is hilarious, so I won't spoiler it. But yeah, he's a little bit angry with Hulk at the end of that story. This is called, again, everyone, if you're just looking for a fun read, and you can find him online and really be honest with you, but it's, again, The Incredible Hulk and the Thing, The Big Change by Jim Starlin and Bernie Wrightson. So that's true. You know, go ahead. You got something to say about that one? Sorry.
No. I was trying to remember like all the really good Thing stories. I was just wondering, do you have this? You have this one, right?
I did not load that picture.
You have to, man. No. You recommended that to me. It's one of my favorite issues ever. It's by
it's one of the annuals.
It's one of the annuals. It's by Carl Kessel.
Which number?
It is.
Oh, I remember that now. Yeah, good. I forgot.
It's in 1998. It's a really good one. You recommended it to me.
Okay, well, remind me. I'll find it.
I said, really? And I read it. It is amazing.
I forgot all about that.
Well, I never forget. That's my thing.
Yeah, it's your comic book. Look, anyone here, I'm serious. If you need a comic book encyclopedia and to know anything about comics, because I forget crap that I misplaced my phone right in front of my face yesterday. So, but this one remembers every comic.
He remembers really good.
Wow, I don't remember doing that, but yeah, well, I didn't remember the comic now. Wow, I forgot that, but that's what you're here for. You're my crutch, man, and I appreciate you.
I try.
You know, a lot of people don't realize it, and please keep, since your memory is so good, remind me to fill that one up when we get to some other stories here.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that in the 70s, you know, obviously 60s as well, but in the 70s, obviously Marvel's most popular character was Spider-Man.
Yes.
But Ben was right up there as a very, I mean, you know, maybe not everyone knows who he is now, but comic book readers, he was very popular, so much so he got his own team-up book after a couple of tryouts in Marvel Premiere, or whatever it was. Marvel Feature, sorry. He got Marvel 2-in-1, which was going to be like Marvel Team Up. Ben teaming up with various superheroes that would last 100 issues until they would change it. Although, note the misprint in the top left corner, everyone. Marvel 2-on-1. Whoops.
No. Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's what a little.
Kind of when Marvel was producing giant sizes, and they came up with the giant size man thing.
Yeah, giant size man thing. Yeah, Man thing was enough of a problem, that name anyway, right? But yeah, so yeah, but now and yes, because we're all children, no one can resist the giant size man thing joke. And why would you?
It's too easy.
It's too easy. But yeah, Ben, of course, will team up with many, many heroes. Nice Kirby cover there. Over the course of, again, 100 issues, to varying degrees of quality. There were a lot of good ones. I like some of the early Steve Gerber ones. Were pretty good. But as you can see, Ben would, he would not only team up with, there were some strange ones too, like Ben teaming up with Daredevil, that's nothing, but teaming up with Matt Murdock, yeah. Teaming up with Doc Savage in this misleading cover, but still pretty cool.
I'm trying to find like some of the things that I've enjoyed of the thing, just getting a bunch of issues. And now that you're going through Marvel 2-in-1, I remember. Do you remember Project Pegasus?
How'd you know that was going to be the next thing I'm putting up, dude? Because this is the greatest of the one of the best Marvel sagas I ever saw, man. I thought anyway, and I remember buying this. Of course, this is Byrne and Sinnott. The art,
very good,
amazing art.
And the story, like I said, it's not world changing, but it's very solid. It's very fun. You get to know a lot of the characters.
I love this comic.
And the thing is, you know, when you talk about team up books, you had Spider-Man in Marvel Team Up. You had of course Marvel 2-in-1, which is with the Thing. You had DC Presents with Superman, and you had
Brave and the Bold,
Batman. Yeah. And I think like for Superman to team up with a bunch of heroes, and for Batman to team up with a bunch of heroes, in a way you have to change what they fundamentally are, because Superman really, I mean, he's Superman. He doesn't really need, anybody's help. He can do it pretty much alone. And in the case of Batman, Batman prefers to work alone or to work with people that he has trained. But one of the things that I liked about the Marvel 2-in-1, of course, some of the villains are kind of silly. Some of the stories are not that great. But I just really enjoyed the Thing teaming up with other heroes, because the Thing is such an affable character. He's everybody's best friend. You know, everybody can get along with him. Everybody enjoys his company. He would always, every time you would see heroes playing poker, the Thing would always be there. You know, he's kind of like, even though he's not like Wolverine, who has to be in every goddamn Marvel team. He doesn't have to be in every team, but I know he's in everybody's cell phone, because everybody just loves the Thing.
Yeah, and then he is respected. Dude, look, he's respected by one of the all-time greats, Captain America. Right, he's good buddies. He's buddies with Cap.
For anybody that didn't read comic books around or Marvel comic books around this time, Project Pegasus was this like laboratory set up by the government, and their mission was to study energy and different forms of energy, and they go like to different dimensions and whatever. And the Thing was part of Project Pegasus as a security guard. So it was because a lot of villains would attack that place. it was always good to
Yeah.
have like superpowered help. So Marvel Man, later Quasar, was one of the guards there, and so was the thing.
That's right.
By the way, Wundar, he's kind of
Wundar
like,
was an interesting storyline.
he's a Superman clone. He's a Superman clone. His first
By the way,
appearance-
he dates back to the very early issues of Marvel 2-in-1. It was a Steve Gerber story thread that they abandoned for a while.
If I am correct, the first appearance of Wundar was in Man-Thing, because if you remember, the Man-Thing lived in the nexus of all realities. Wundar's world is destroyed, and he travels to Earth, and he appears in the nexus of all realities. Eventually, he goes to Project Pegasus. His powers are changed fundamentally. He stops being a Superman clone, and he acquires some kind of energy powers, and he changes his name to
Aquarian.
Exactly.
But it was Steve Gerber who put him in. He was like, as you know, he had the mind of a child, and in those early issues of Marvel 2-in-1, the Gerber run, he called him Uncle Benji. He basically, Ben thought him as kind of like his nephew and his child in a way, and really was protective of him. And when Pegasus started abusing him, I remember he went in there and he was about ready to throw down with Captain America to smash that place when he thought they were abusing Wundar.
And the thing was with Wundar, after he acquires the powers of what you call it, of Aquarian, or changes power, he gains more of a mind. One of my favorite issues of the whole Project Pegasus thing was this, with one of the lamest superheroes ever.
I love
Black Goliath.
Later Giant Man.
But here's the thing.
Bill Foster was great though.
Bill Foster had a horrible costume in the issues as Black Goliath.
Yes.
He joins Project Pegasus as a scientist. He and Ben become good friends. And when they're fighting, I believe, Nuclo in this issue.
Right.
They're fighting Nuclo. He shows off his new costume to Ben, and he goes, "So what's your code name?" He goes, "Black Goliath." And Ben just looks at him and says, "Well, it's very plain to see that you're black. So why have that as part of your code name? It's kind of silly." And last time I checked, Goliath was a bad guy. And then Bill Foster says, "So what do you think I should do?" He goes, "Well, you have the G on your belt. Nobody has done better than the name Giant Man. Why don't you become Giant Man?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he rechristens himself. He changes his moniker to simply Giant Man because of a suggestion from the Thing. And I thought that was really cool, because you have characters who are black, like the Falcon, that don't need to have the word black before their name, because it's obvious, they're African American. That it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. They're heroes. They're great characters. Bill Foster's a great character. I even liked him in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Lawrence Fishburne as Bill Foster. I love Falcon, and I love what Anthony Mackie has done with the character in the MCU. And you don't need, that black before the name. You kind of do need it with Black Panther because it just sounds really cool. But
absolutely,
you didn't need Bill Foster to name himself Black Goliath. Just Giant Man is more than enough. And killing him in Civil War was just moronic. It
was terrible.
Stupid. It was terrible. But
Project
Civil War
Pegasus.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Project Pegasus was just amazing. Like I said, remember I showed this. This was one of the second Marvel trade paperback compilation. So it was such a popular story that back when they weren't doing a trade paperback on everything, and it was really great. But another great story in Marvel 2-in-1, and then it's your boy Byrne.
Yes,
It was just a nutty one here in a sense, but the art's fantastic. I don't know if you remember this one, because 2-in-1 has some good stories. This is another one.
And you know why I like this issue? Like many other issues in Marvel Universe, one of the things we find out is if you go to the past and you modify the past, you don't modify the present. You create a new alternate timeline.
Yeah.
And the timeline diverges, and anything you did to the past becomes a new future, right? Someone should have told this to the Russo brothers,
The Russo brothers.
because what they did in Avengers Endgame, and I know this is going to be controversial because everybody loves that movie. I do not like that movie because everything they did with the time travel was either silly or against everything that I've seen in Marvel Comics. In fact, I got into a fight, like on my comic book show called Comic Mania. I got into a fight with some guy because I said, look, Captain America cannot fight Captain America because it's been established in comic books that you cannot have the shield, the Captain America shield from the future, interact with the Captain America shield from the past. This I know from, I don't know if it was a Guardians of the Galaxy issue or I think it was a Captain America issue, where the Guardians of the Galaxy go back to the past, and around that time, Major Van Astrovik was no longer just called Major Astro. He was called Major Victory, and he had rescued Cap's shield in the future. He had modified his suit to look like Captain America because, of course, Vance Astro loves Captain America. So he changed his moniker, changed his name to become Major Victory. And then when he went back to the past, you had the same shield from two different timelines, and they couldn't interact. So Dr. Druid put a spell on the shields so they would never touch. Because if they would touch, the same object would be trying to occupy the same space in time. You see what I'm saying?
Sure. I remember.
So when I saw the fight between Captain America from the past and the future in Avengers Endgame, I said, no, that is going against Marvel canon. and of course, all my friends around me in the theater went, what? I'm like, oh my God, you idiots. Read comic books, please. Stop just watching movies and read comics.
I'll tell you, here's one of the offbeat Marvel 2-in-1 stories of all time that I'm sure you'll agree.
It's a good one.
But here's another one, though, too, that will shock people. Well, you may not remember this one. You do, though. I really love this issue of Marvel 2-in-1 number 86 because it's just character stuff. Flint Marko, the Sandman.
Yes, I love that issue.
This is, again, this is way out of left field. This is when he went, remember, Spider-Man villain, FF villain, remember the Frightful Four, and Sinister Six even, became kind of a good guy for a while.
Here you go. This is what happened. If you remember correctly, you, of course, have Flint Marko as the Sandman, right? And then there was another character called Hydro Man. Same powers, but water-based, right?
Yeah.
So in a Marvel team-up, Hydro Man and Sandman team up to fight Spider-Man and some other hero. Don't remember who. At one point, they collide, Hydro Man and Sandman, and they become this huge, gigantic golem that is part water, part sand.
Wasn't that Amazing Spider-Man?
Maybe it was Amazing Spider-Man. I know they were fighting Spider-Man, right?
I remember that cover, John Romita Jr. Yeah.
Right. So so they become this huge golem, and then at the end of the issue, they get defeated, and many months later or many weeks later, they finally divide, right?
Yeah.
And when they divide, we find out that it was kind of hell being stuck together like that because their minds kind of like got mixed up. And to Hydro Man, he just, he shrugged it off and just went on to do evil things again. But Flint, it was just like the last humiliation, to lose his identity, to lose his self. And he goes, I have all these powers. I'm a very strong, very powerful man. and yet I've been defeated multiple times by so many heroes. He just couldn't take it anymore. And he goes, that's it. That's enough. I don't care. I'm not going to be villain, right? And there are two great issues. There's one issue of Marvel Team Up. I forget the issue number, but you have the, whatchamacallit, oh my God, what are the names of these guys? You know, there's Montana, Fancy Dan, and the Ox. What are those guys called?
Remind me. Oh, the three. The enforcers. Yeah.
The enforcers. There you go. And they had two more enforcers. One that had like a steel gloves. He was like a boxer, and one that was like I think he was Nick something. He was kind of all dressed in black, and he was like a contortionist, right? So these five guys, the enforcers are fighting Spider-Man, and the thing is, Flint Marko is trying to go straight. He changes his name. He goes into a boarding house, and when he sees the enforcers fighting Spider-Man, he helps him out. Spider-Man says thanks, and he goes, "I'm not going to turn you in. If you want to be a good guy, you go ahead." And the thing is, like, in this issue, I think it's when it starts, when the Thing and Sandman just have a beer, have a chat, and they see that they two kids from a rough neighborhood. One went good, one went bad, but they become kind of friendly, and you see that Flynn Marko is honestly trying to change. And the thing is, in this issue, there's no fighting. There's no real team up. It's just two guys talking about their lives, sharing a beer. Wonderful issue. One of my favorites, all-time favorites.
Oh, this is a very acclaimed issue of 2-in-1. But when it comes to acclaimed issues of 2-in-1, man, well, we're finally there because you just touched on it a little earlier. Let me get to it, of course. There we go. I wonder if any of you have ever seen this one. Marvel 2-1 Annual number 7. Wow. This is one of the ones where we already knew about the heart of Ben J. Grimm, but man, it is never more on display. How much heart the Benjamin J. Grimm, the Ever-Loving Blue-Eyed Thing has.
Yes. Right there. I'm right there with you.
Go after it, man.
Okay, as you well know, I don't know. I'm guessing all your listeners are well versed in the cosmic entities of the Marvel Universe, but they have these guys called the Elders of the Universe. Like, of course, the the Game Master. You have the Collector. You have the Contemplator, the Gardener, right? And these people are dedicated to one task in their life. Like Gardener, all he does is grow plants. Contemplator, all he does is contemplate. You have the Runner, who all he does is running. Okay? So the thing is, in this issue, we meet the Elder of the Universe called the Champion of the Universe. All he does is go from planet to planet, find the toughest, most strongest people, and challenge them to a fight. And the thing is, he's been alive since the beginning of the universe. His entire race has died, just like with all the elders. Their entire race has died, but because they have concentrated their entire life into one thing, they will not die, because that pursuit keeps them alive. He comes to Earth, he challenges these heroes to a fight, and he beats all of them to a pulp, including one of my favorite characters that I know is nobody else's favorite, but I love the hell out of him. His name is Simon Williams, alias Wonder Man.
Wonder Man. Well, I love Wonder Man. I love him. I love him.
Yeah, I adore the character since his first appearance in Avengers #9. I love the character.
That's right.
And he beats all of them. And then he starts fighting the Thing, and of course he beats him to a pulp. And the Thing keeps getting up. He keeps hitting him. The Thing keeps getting up. The Thing is black and blue. His entire body is destroyed by the power of this man, who is just a cosmic entity.
He's gonna know he's been in a fight. I love this page right here. Ron Wilson did a nice job. And he's gonna know he's been in a fight, bone crushing brawl like never before. Said
And the
Thing's voice.
he keeps getting up. The champion says, "I see that I will have to kill you to beat you, and even then, I may not. I will not beat your unbreakable spirit." And then he declares him the winner, because he will never break his spirit. He will never break his heart. He will never break him. He may break his body, but never his spirit, never his soul, because that's how powerful Ben Grimm's heart is. It is an amazing issue. I recommend it every time I can. If you love superheroes, if you love Marvel superheroes, there's certain issues that show you what these characters are made of. Like there's a great issue of Spider-Man called "The Kid Who Collected Spider-Man."
Oh yeah, Roger Stern.
Beautiful issue, yes. And this, I think, shows you what kind of hero the Thing is. Nothing can beat him. They may break his body, but never his spirit. Beautiful issue.
That's one of why he's my all-time favorite. I love Ben J. Grimm, and it's just that is such a great issue. Yeah, I mean, again, later as I remember being actually this was kind of fun here. It's been a while since I've read this one, but I remember being really agitated that they stopped Marvel 2-in-1, and so and even though he's my favorite character, I read a lot of this one, but I remember it's been a long time. But John Byrne, he only did this cover. I mean, he wrote this book for a good while, but I kind of tapped out after a while because I was really aggravated with some of the things he did. But tell us a little bit about the Thing series, because I know you bought it for a while.
I bought every issue that
all 36 of them, huh?
Yeah. It was my thing. I would just keep buying comic books, and even when they went bad, I would keep buying them. I had a full collection of New Mutants, and that book was never good. You know?
That's true, by the way. Steve mentioned the Thing is an Orthodox Jewish person.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
So was yeah, he is Jewish. So just like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee.
The thing that I have to say about this book is that it had a lot of promise. Because people love Marvel 2-in-1. So you go, well, you can do a lot of good things with the Thing, but I don't think John Byrne's attention was fully in this book. So you would get one good issue here, one good issue there, and like 10 really lame issues. I think that the first issue was okay. There was another issue with this woman who comes up with this makeup that anytime anybody sees her with that makeup, they fall madly in love with her. I think that was a good issue. One of my favorite issues, and they it was a retcon, and then it was retcon again. As we all know, what's his face? Lockjaw. He's like a dog.
Yeah.
He's
the Inhumans puppy. Yeah, love him.
And everybody always thought it was just, a dog that was, exposed to the Terrigen mists, and he has the powers of teleportation, and he looks like a ginormous dog, right? It was, I think, the Thing number 6, where we find out that, in fact, it was not a dog that was turned into a super dog, but Inhuman, a human-looking person who had Inhuman genes. He is exposed to the Terrigen mist, and he transforms into a dog. That was by John. And the reason that this happens was because, as if you remember, the Inhumans had to move to the blue area of the moon because the contamination of Earth's atmosphere was just really killing them. They moved there.
That's Byrne stuff again, yeah.
Yes, and Crystal and Quicksilver's daughter is born on the moon. Her name, of course, is Luna, which means moon in Spanish. And the thing is, she's completely human. The mutant genes versus the Inhuman genes cancel each other out. And the first person born on the moon is a 100% complete human being. But the thing is, Pietro does not want his daughter to be human because he's scared that she will be, marginalized by the Inhuman community. and he wants to expose her to terrigen mists. But of course, the rest of the royal family are afraid to expose her because you never know what you're gonna get. You know, you could get something like Crystal, who looks completely human and has all these fantastic powers, or she could end up looking like Gorgon, who has what we call it, those weird feet that look like a goat's feet.
Yes.
Or she can look like Triton, who looks like a fish, or she could have something like what Black Bolt has. He can never speak because he would destroy the entirety of Athlon if he would speak. So they don't want her to be exposed to the Terrigen Mist, but Pietro insists. And what deters him is that Lockjaw finally speaks, and he goes, "Well, Pietro, would you risk your daughter becoming me?" And that's when it's established that Lockjaw was an inhuman turned into a dog-like creature. And then that was retconned by Peter David in an issue of X Factor. That they said that was not true. That it was what's his face, Karnak throwing his voice with like super ventriloquism, so that Pietro wouldn't expose his daughter to the Terrigen Mists. And I didn't like that. I thought the John Byrne retcon was interesting, because of course, why would you expose a dog to Terrigen Mists?
You have a question?
Oh yeah, how do they have a moniker? Revolting Development. Oh my God, it's
What a revolting development for Clobberin times, for that matter.
Clobberin time. It's the worst. It goes like this. Es hora de pelear. It's time to fight. Really, there's no word for clobbering, So they go. Es hora de pelear. It's time to fight. I let me tell you. I sometimes I hate my language. So here's the thing, right? Human Torch, Johnny Storm, alias the Human Torch, right? As he flames on, he screams out, "Flame on!" Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's his mantra to turn flaming, right?
Yes.
So here in Mexico, you can't. For some reason, they didn't translate "flame on," and they changed it to "llamas a mí." Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you translate it back to English, it's flames to me or fire to me. Okay? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. So instead of saying flame on,
right,
he goes fire to me or flames to me. Okay?
Oh boy.
But that's not the worst part. Okay? Now I know his name is Johnny Storm. I know his name, his superhero name is the Human Torch. Yep. But 99% of all Mexicans call him Llamas a mí. They think that the thing he screams out to become the Human Torch is his name. If you will, like Shazam. A lot of people thought Captain Marvel's superhero name was Shazam because he would scream out Shazam before.
Yes, but it's not.
Right. But here, people that read comic books, of course, know that his name is Human Torch. But everybody else thinks it's Llamas a mí.
Well,
it annoys me to no end.
Wait, Steve just said he watched Airplane in Spanish once. Not funny at all. You should tell him what that's called in Spanish, because you told me once.
Yes, I did. Because in Mexico, if you just call something airplane, people won't go to see it because they won't understand what it means. Because they go, aeroplano or avión, they would go, what's that mean? So they have to call it something else. And the name of airplane in Spanish is ¿Y dónde está el piloto? Which translates to "Where's the pilot?" But the thing is, it became so popular in Mexico that every time there's a comedy of that sort, they kind of changed it the same way. So of course, when Naked Gun came to Cancun,
Right.
it was translated to "¿Y dónde está el policía?" Where's the policeman?
That's fantastic. Oh, Jesus.
And it's all
well.
over the place. It never translates anything just as it's supposed to be. You know, sometimes, you know, they don't go that far away. Like Batman Begins was just translated to Batman Inicia, you know, Batman starts or Batman Begins. But sometimes they just go off the deep end and oh my God, it's so annoying. And the worst part is, like, when I'm recommending a movie, I just say the name in English and they go, "What is it called in Spanish?" I go, "I don't know. I don't memorize it. I don't care." Like, thankfully, Star Wars was more or less translated the same. Like, The Empire Strikes Back was El Imperio Contraataca, which is just perfect. Return of the Jedi, El Regreso del Jedi, not a problem. But Star Wars, if you translate it literally, it's Guerra de las Galaxias, which means war between galaxies.
Oh man. Well, anyway, so a lot of people like this series, and Carlos did. Lasted for 36 issues. But another great comic around, well, maybe a little bit before this, I don't know. Another great thing story is right here.
Oh, yes.
Well, because I've always loved the relationship between Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm. This, you know, Barry Windsor Smith, one of the great artists, of course. This is just a fun. For those who do not remember, Marvel Fanfare was a comic that Marvel had a lot. They used to stock a lot of stories that they didn't use for various reasons, fill-in issues. For editors just didn't like what was going on with them. They would change stories, different things like that, various different reasons. So they started a comic. I was in the early '80s, and it became just a direct sales comic shops only comic called Marvel Fanfare. And it's sort of an anthology. You see different stuff. And this one, Barry Windsor Smith had done this story, and well, I'm glad we had Marvel Fanfare because we got to see it. He's got another one that never got printed, by the way, you can find online. But this one, again, Ben and Johnny, the war between them was never funnier. And go for it.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. What's that?
No, I'm getting messages all over the place.
Well, you're important.
Just give me 1 second. This is kind of a
okay.
Kind of an emergency. All I can say about this is that the art by Barry Windsor Smith is beautiful, and the story is hilarious, and the ending is amazing. It's just a throwaway story, but it stays with you just because of the beautiful art and just how silly, funny the story is, and how it, at least to me, shows you exactly what the Human Torch thing dynamic is.
Yes, to ridiculous proportions.
Yes.
Because Johnny, when Johnny Storm wasn't torturing Spider-Man, he was torturing Ben. Because they got after it a lot, and they argued a lot in NEPHEW. So this one, you can never pick this one up. Then they actually, I just love this cover. This was Jim Starlin. But I don't remember much about this one. I don't know if you remember this one.
I don't. I do remember having it and reading it.
Like
I just don't remember. The art was nice, but I don't remember it being very memorable because
no, it wasn't.
Most of the Marvel Fanfare stuff was, not that great. It was not.
No, it was. Yeah.
The best thing is sometimes the art was good, and because of the paper stock, the art always printed pretty beautiful.
Yeah, it was. And then the thing about one thing about the character at this point, after his Thing series, he was just went back to FF, and he was kind of all over the Marvel universe again. He later though, let's see, he was around, he was all over the place. He later got his own series again. Look, I can't stand Dan Slott right now. I just think he's just a puke. But for a while there, for a small 7-8 issues, I love this comic.
That's
Ben
the
had
Dan
his own
Slott one,
comic
right? Yeah.
again. Yes, this was in the early aughts at some point in the early 2000s, Slots and Ass. But this he just previously done a book that I really love called Spider-Man Human Torch, which was just so much fun, very retro throwback. This comic was really good. He can't write anymore, but he really could when he did this one. It was so much fun. He really did a great job with the character. I put, it's there's a trade on it, by the way. If you're a big Grimm fan and you had not read this one, I recommend it highly. I don't know if you remember it, what you thought about it, but I really enjoyed it. And it was sad to see it go.
The thing with that, I really enjoyed. In fact, I love what Dan Slott was doing during that time with She-Hulk. He did 2 series with She-Hulk, like a 12-ish miniseries, and then like a regular series that also like only lasted for like 18 issues or something like that. I love those She-Hulk issues. I adored them. The Thing felt the same way with the John Byrne stuff. There were a few good issues, some issues that weren't that interesting. I think Dan Slott is he's a great writer, and I think he gets the thing, but I don't know, it didn't do that much for me. In fact, I know this is gonna be like, you're gonna hate for this, but the Mark Waid Fantastic Four run, again, it just wasn't for me, because if I remember correctly, during the Fantastic Four run, Mark Waid made the Thing a millionaire. And
It was late the second one, I think, and when he went back.
Yeah, and during these issues, the Thing was also rich, and that didn't do it for me.
And this one, but it still had some good stories, though.
I mean, yeah. Like I said, it had some good stuff, but I didn't like the fact that he was a millionaire. I didn't like the fact that he had to, invest this money and whatever. And he had a girlfriend, right, who was like a gold digger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like her at all. So there you go.
Mark, with a Z, you're not the only one, man. Dan Slott's a jagoff. He wrote some comics I liked way back, like 20-something years ago, almost like this one, but now he can't write for shit. His new run on FF was pathetic when they just brought it back. It's a piece of crap. He sucks. So, yeah, he can block himself, the buckle. Screw him and the horse he molested before he wrote in on it. Then really the lastly, kind of and far as Ben going solo, this is a weird book by Jeff Johns, but I kind of liked it. I don't know, it was crazy. Did you read this one?
That I wanted to read it. I think I have it like on digital, because I love Jeff Johns, and I love the art. But I have not been reading it. In fact, I haven't even started reading it, but I do want to read it, because around that time, Marvel was coming up with a lot of 4-issue miniseries, and they did this one, and they did one with Vision, and I wanted to read both of them, and I haven't, and that's my fault. I've been reading a lot of comic books recently.
Well, if you ever read that one, let me know what you think.
I will put it, because
been a long time since I've read it.
It was like around 2011. I got really just depressed with the state of comic books, and I kind of stopped reading a lot of new comic books. But I've been giving myself like the task of reading a bunch of stuff, and thankfully I found some really good stuff. Like, for some reason, I read Afterlife with Archie, and I loved it. So hilarious. And I can't believe that I did. And I just started a new series by Mark Millar called Magic Order. My God, it's really good. And I've just been reading things here and there that I've found interesting. And I read Secret Empire. I don't know if you remember those issues where Captain America becomes an agent of Hydra.
Filth.
I cannot believe people actually read those.
Oh, it's trash. Yeah.
It was so awful. I'm like, my God, how could this be published? Why are they letting this happen?
Oh, it's horrible. By the way, Smart Steve, actually, the only decent thing he did with Slott did with this current FF run, he did have Alicia and Ben get married, which they always should have been. But I'm sorry, go ahead. I just want to answer his question. Right?
What was it?
No, I was just answering Smart Steve's question. Yeah, so no, he was asking. So they dropped Alicia Masters as Ben Love. No, when they brought them back about a year and a half ago now, whatever it was, after having no FF comic, let that sink in for a second. Marvel gives such two shits about the FF because they don't own the movie rights until recently when Disney got them, unfortunately, because they're going to suck that up. But when they brought the comic back about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, whatever it was. They did do a Ben and Alicia wedding, and at least that, the comic was terrible mostly, but I just couldn't stand it. But I promised someone on my show, a fellow fan, that I would give it 12 issues. I gave it 13 because 12 and 13 were their attempt at a thing Hulk battle that sucked. But I gave it that many, and then I just tapped out. But before that, they did a special. They did they married Ben and Alicia, so that's something at least. But they can, Slot can suck it. He's garbage now. You can go straight to but that's basically kind of it. I mean, we touched on some of the stories we liked. We talked about his early life.
Let me see. I have one. No, we have not talked about one of the ones that I wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, that was my next question. I was about to see if you had any other ones.
Yeah, the annual.
Oh yeah.
The annual.
Give me the number.
It's annual number. It doesn't say the number because back then when going by numbers, they were by years. So it's a 1998 Fantastic Four annual.
Just go ahead and tell us about it. Let's see if I can find it.
Well, you recommended it to me. I thought Carl Kessel was just such a good writer. And the thing is, it's so sad that he's very undervalued. I think his Daredevil, some of the best Daredevil I've ever read. Of course, right next to Frank Miller's. I love what he did with Hawk and Dove. Those were characters that nobody cared about. And I think he and his wife did amazing things in that issue. And I read this issue, and when you recommended it to me, I said, man, I don't like the Stuart Immonen art that much, but I really trust Carl Kessel. I read this book, and it was just amazing. Basically, what happens is the thing goes to the future, and he sees how things have developed in a few years in the future. And it was just a fun story, seeing what's going to happen in the future with the Fantastic Four, if they're still together, how things have been developing. Apparently, Alicia, I remember she's either married or dead, and it just kills Ben to see this. There's a really great scene where he's just playing poker with his buddies. I don't remember who all of them were, but I do remember that Wolverine was there, and that was fun. I think it was Wolverine and Nick Fury, two of the guys who he was playing poker with. But the thing that I love most is that the issue starts with Franklin asking the Thing, why is he his uncle? He goes, well, I know Johnny is my uncle because he's married to my mother. I know how I'm related to my mother. I know how I'm related to my father, but how am I related to you, right? And the thing is, that kind of becomes the start of it. And then at the end, when he goes back to the past, he starts talking to Franklin, and Franklin goes, well, I was thinking, Uncle Ben, my middle name is Benjamin, and your first name is Benjamin, so maybe that could be enough. Maybe that's why you're my uncle, because we have a name in common. And Ben just goes, kid, that works for me. And I thought that was just a wonderful moment between these two characters. How Franklin loves his Uncle Ben so much, he'll bend the laws of logic just for them to be related, for them to have something in common. I just thought it was a very beautiful moment. And just in general, just to show the future of the Fantastic Four through the eyes of the Thing. I thought that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
I need to go back and read that sucker now.
That was a very beautiful story, and you recommended it to me, and I said, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll get it."
Cool, man.
And
I'm gonna dig that up. We have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Canadian Spider-Man does what whatever a Canadian Spider-Man can. Has the Thing ever beaten the Hulk? Has he beaten him a few times? In a straight up fair fight, he never has really. He's just too outgunned, and the matter the Hulk gets, stronger Hulk gets. So he stays with him, but I don't remember him ever beating him in a fair fight. Do you?
Yes, yes. The Thing did him one time. If I, it's a.
There've been so many.
You of course don't remember it because you hated this this era of the Thing.
Okay.
If you remember when the Thing got,
Oh God, I know what you're gonna say.
when the Thing got
Holy shit!
when the Thing got exposed to more cosmic rays, he got the little spikes all over his body, right?
Yeah. There you go. Well, there.
And if you remember correctly, around that time, the Hulk had become gray.
Yeah,
So
and he was weak. He wasn't as powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you look here, it's on the second line. The issue before the last.
There it is. Yeah.
Line,
Yep.
right there. That's where they fight.
Cover.
That's where they fight, and you have the Thing is more powerful, and the Hulk is less powerful, and they fight again. But they fight in an issue of Fantastic Four, and they fight in an issue of the Hulk. When they fight in the issue of the Fantastic Four, who wins? Hulk.
Hulk. Oh.
I mean, no, sorry, the Thing. But when they fight in the issue of the Hulk wins. But here's the thing: when they fight hand to hand, strength to strength in the Fantastic Four, the Thing beats him because now the Thing is more powerful than the Hulk. But if you remember, the Gray Hulk is craftier, right? So when they fight in the issue of the Hulk by Peter David, what the Hulk does is he has one thing that the Thing doesn't have: the jumping ability. So what happens is the Thing gets to, they fight like in Central Park or something. The Thing gets to where the Hulk is, and the Hulk jumps away. The Thing runs after the Hulk, and then when he gets to the Hulk, he jumps away, and the Hulk keeps jumping and tiring out the Thing. So when they finally, after an hour of that, the Thing is so tired that the Hulk once beats him. So the thing is, when it was just a fair fight, hand-to-hand combat, just strength in the Fantastic Four issue, Thing beats him. But when it came to using strategy, the Hulk beats him. And that was the one time it was a definitive. He gets beaten here, the other one gets beaten there.
But is Joe Fix-It really the Hulk? Chris Berger asks. Well, kind of, yeah.
Yes, it is, because if we go back to the Hulk #1, he was gray. So in his first appearance, in the first appearance, he was gray Hulk. So any way you want to look at it, the Green Hulk, the Gray Hulk, all the Hulks combined, whatever, it's a version of the Hulk. And the same thing with the Thing, if you're gonna be a nitpicker, well, we're never gonna get to an answer. The question was, has the Thing ever beaten him? Yes, he has. Of course,
I'm glad. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Again, well, you're right. Again, I hated that era.
You can nitpick anything to death, but to me, that's an answer.
No, it is a good answer. No, but I do remember the Mr. Fix-It thing. Keely Chow, nice to see you there. Nice. By the way, I appreciate that, Chris Persia. That's a good question. Anybody else have any more questions about the Thing for Mr. Encyclopedia Carlos?
Let's see.
The comics database. We're almost done here. Don't worry, I know you're in a hurry.
No. I have to eat like around 10 because as you well know, I'm on diet. I have to eat every 3 hours. So weird. When you start in the path of living a fit life, your time is not your own. You have to wake up at 6. You have to be working out at 7. It's a whole crazy thing. But you look like that.
Boy. Yeah. Well,
What do you do?
Waterworld Fulton development. Again, the only other thing I'll mention, everyone, is one of the great portrayals of the Thing to finish. Yeah. But
one thing you're forgetting is that, of course, the Fantastic Four have been in animation a lot.
Well, that's what I was going. Before you got here, I talked a little bit about it, but yes,
thankfully, even though the Hanna-Barbera cartoons were not that great, and let's not even talk about the Thing where he was young Ben Grimm, and he had the Thing ring, and the Thing ring did its thing, and he became Thing again, whatever. But that second season of the Fantastic Four during the 90s.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna mention that. By the way,
really great adaptations of FF stories by Lee and Kirby, and that to me is some of the best animated Fantastic Four ever. Sadly, it was only the second season. The first season is awful, but the second season is pretty good. And there was a Thing and Hulk battle, and I thought that was great.
Oh, that was second season. That's my happiest place. That second season, everyone of the mid-90s. This is from mid-90s FF cartoon. Is my happy place. Great, as you can see, they look as pure Kirby as opposed to the horrible way he looked in the first season. But it adapts a lot of classic stories and puts, and it's just great stuff. Chris Persia says, but Stan said the Hulk was always meant to be green because, he was. They just screwed up the coloring on the first issue. It's a long story, but also you got to remember another thing. Stan said a lot of stuff. Stan said things, and it didn't. Don't get me started on Stanley. We'll be here all night. Oh, there you go, Smart Steve. We deserve this. Yeah, we may as well cover that one. Thing ring. Oh, sorry, miss it. Thing ring. Do your thing. What's that, Douglas? For those who don't know. Yeah, I thought Douglas. Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. He was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But, like I said, Stan said a lot of things. We won't go there. But, yes, thank you, Smart Steve. Maybe you'd like some lemon and some salt to pour in that wound. For what the Thing ring. There was a cartoon, yes, ladies and gentlemen. It's true, in case you're lucky enough not to know this, called Fred and Barney Meet the Thing. And if you thought the Herbie cartoon was bad, yes, the Thing was a kid. Little Ben Grimm was a child who had a ring that would turn him into the Thing, and I blocked out any other memory of that thing, but just go look at it on YouTube.
What I remember is that Reed Richards, smartest man in Earth 616, cannot cure his best friend Ben Grimm, so he goes to another scientist who finds a cure. But the thing is, he gets cured, but he becomes a teenager. And when Ben Grimm was a teenager, he was not, all bulky, filled with muscles like he would later be during his college years. When he was around 12, 13, he was a scrawny little kid, which is ridiculous because usually people who are like, muscle bound have, they're usually huskier and they get muscle bound.
Right.
When you're very, very skinny, unless you're like juicing, you will never get muscles. I know this because I have 3 friends who were very skinny when they were younger, and the only reason why now they're muscle bound is because they're all juicing.
Chris Persia has a good question.
Yes.
Did either of you approve of the Ultimate? What?
Yeah. And he would become like the Thing when he would slam 2 rings together, which is kind of stupid because there was a genie called Shazam, and it was kind of similar. 2 kids would slam.
It was garbage.
2 kids would two kids would slam their rings together and invoke the genie Shazam, which I hated. You know why? Because Shazam,
we love
Shazam, and some idiot tried to tell me that Captain Marvel was Shazam. I'm like, you fucking moron! People never question me.
People never question you. Only I get to do that.
Me. I was going on a tirade on my show Comic Mania about that. I don't like how they're turning all these superheroes or super villains who are white in the comic books. They're becoming African American or black. in the MCU or other places, like the new Batwoman or Kong, because Kong is now will be portrayed by a black actor. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I'm just saying in the comic books he's a white guy, and some idiot says, well, if I remember correctly, Kang is blue. I'm like, you moron, you complete moron. That is his mask.
It was a mask.
That is not his face.
He was a blue guy. He was an Andorian. He was Dr. Manhattan.
He has a mask and a helmet.
So stupid.
But it's not his face, you moron. God, I hate it.
My answer to this question, Chris Persia, is hell no, screw Ultimates, but I'll ask Carlos anyway. Did you approve of the Ultimate Universe version dribble of the where they discover that Ben's rock form was actually a chrysalis, chrysalis state before becoming a true cosmic powered entity? That's garbagey, filthy trash to me, but we'll see what comes.
Okay, now here you go. The problem with the Ultimates universe is that there were some good things. There were some good things, and there were some bad things. Some of the stuff that Brian Michael Bendis did with Spider-Man, I enjoyed. I'm not saying it was all great. I'm just saying I enjoyed some of it. The Ultimates, Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Mark Millar, I really liked, even though it got the Marvel heroes and put them in a context that is just way too grim and gritty. But I enjoyed it because, as you and I talked about, a book called A Feast Unknown, he had Philip Jose Farmer took Tarzan, Doc Savage, and put it in a really gritty environment. But it was not the real Tarzan. It was not the real Doc Savage. It was different versions of them.
They had different names too, though.
Exactly,
they were totally different.
Right now, to me, the Ultimates, I go, okay, that's not the real Captain America. That's not the real Giant Man. That's not the real.
Using the names though.
No. But they were not the Avengers. They were the Ultimates. So in my head, I said, okay, this is an alternate reality. So I liked the Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the Ultimates. I enjoyed some of the Ultimate Spider-Man. But what I hated from day one was Ultimate Fantastic Four. I don't think they got it. I just don't think they got it. I didn't like them all being in the Baxter building. I didn't like them being teenagers. I didn't like Johnny Storm and Sue Storm's father being like their mentor character. I didn't like them using a wire hanger to open the when they were younger, to open the portal to the negative zone. I said, it was cool for them to be adventurers and for them to, go on an adventure, be it to outer space or to another dimension, and there to gain their powers. And then the one issue, I think it was in issue 2, where they're trying to scientifically explain their powers. If there's one thing I hate is when they try to put scientific explanations to superhero powers, because there's no scientific explanation.
Yeah, it's just so stupid.
And then they're going, well, the flame powers of the Human Torch work like this, and the elastic powers of Mr. Fantastic work like that. I'm like, no. The one thing I liked about Mark Waid's, I do believe it was Mark Waid's explanation of why become superheroes, is because Mr. Fantastic, the moment he sees what's happening to them, he decides that he's going to make them superheroes because he doesn't want anybody to treat his best friends and the people closest to him as freaks. So he decides that they will become these just really gaudy superheroes, and everybody will look to them, to do good deeds, and everybody will trust them, and nobody will treat them as freaks. And he will call himself Mr. Fantastic, which is the stupidest name ever, so that his friends won't be afraid to use these code names, right? And if they're going to make fun of him, if they're going to make fun of anyone, they're going to make fun of him. And that is a choice, that is a decision that a mature man makes. And Mr. Fantastic was a mature man, was an older man in the regular 616 Earth. But why would he choose to call himself Mr. Fantastic if he's a teenager in the Ultimate Universe? It makes no sense. And later, when he becomes, I think it was the Maker, and he becomes an evil person, I'm like, oh my god, this is just so stupid. So that's the problem that I have. That's the problem that I have with the Ultimate Universe. I think some things work, and some things didn't. And the thing that I hated the most about the Ultimate Universe was that it was supposed to be created as a universe with no continuity, or didn't have such a long continuity, so that people could, just pick an issue up and not be confused by years and years and years continuity. But the thing is, by the second year, their continuity was more messed up than the regular Marvel Universe continuity. Because even though there were only like 2 or 3 writers in the beginning, they just didn't talk to each other. So it just became a mess. It became a total mess. I mean, like the first time we see the Hulk was in Ultimate Marvel Team Up, and he's green. But when he's in the Ultimates, he's gray. The first time we see Iron Man, he has a suit that's different from the one he used in the Ultimates, and there's no explanation. So I'm like, come on. You're a year in, and there's nobody's talking to anybody. So I did not like the Ultimate Universe. Fantastic Four. I did like some things like the Ultimates, but again, only the first 2 volumes of Ultimates, because Volume 3 is awful and Ultimatum is disgusting, and Miles Morales was not one of my favorite characters at all. I liked him in the movie, but I did not like him in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Mark with a C. We talked a lot about this earlier. I don't know if you were here, Mark with a C, but he's asking about the She-Thing storyline and her romance with Ben. But you did touch on that earlier. But Sharon Ventura, Mark. Anything to add about that?
Yes. What I liked about that was that Reed and Sue retire for a little while to take care of Franklin. And Mr. Fantastic says, we cannot disband the FF. FF have to continue.
Yeah.
And I want you, Ben, to be the new leader. And I think Ben grew a lot as a leader during that time. I like the lineup, which was Ben, the new Ms. Marvel, Sharon Ventura, Crystal, and Johnny. I thought it was a good team up. Back then, if you remember, Johnny was married to Alicia, and Crystal was his ex-girlfriend, who was divorced from Quicksilver. So there was a lot of sexual tension there. There was a lot of really good storylines around there. When she became the She-Thing, I didn't like that too much. And when the Thing became all spiky, I didn't like that too much. Yes. But I enjoyed a lot of those issues. I enjoyed when Mantis came back, when they fought Kang. I enjoyed when Beyonder appeared. So they had some good issues there, and the art got progressively better. But I think somewhere along the line, Steve Englehart got in the fight with the editors, and he just said, forget this, and he just left in the middle of it. And he was introducing a new Watcher called Aaron, and that was kind of interesting. And he just left in the middle of it, and some guy took it over. And those last 4 issues without Englehart and with this new guy, they were just awful, because basically the Watcher just kidnapped the Fantastic Four and made them dream for a while, and it was awful. And then Walt Simonson came in, and I was just rooting for that.
I love that run, but it was short, though.
It was short, and it had some good things, some bad things, like the time that when he decides that Dr. Doom has been replaced by Doombots for a while, and every stupid issue with Dr. Doom was because it was a Doombot, it wasn't the real Doom. That I thought was pretty good. I didn't like some of the things that happened there, like the one with the fake Fantastic Four. Remember that?
When it was Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and Grey Hulk, and
Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man, yeah.
I love the art, Arthur Adams art, but I hated the lineup because those characters would never be together. There would be no reason for those guys to ever be together. I thought they should have chosen a better lineup, but they just chose a popular lineup for fun, I guess, or for money. I don't know. And so I didn't like that too much. And there was another question: the Heroes Reborn era.
Yeah.
It was just beyond awful. There's nothing of value in all 4 comics. It was
Trash.
The Heroes Reborn. It was the 4 issues. The 4 series was Captain America, which is just god awful. The Avengers, which is even worse.
Heroes Deformed.
Iron Man, which is again disgusting, and Fantastic Four. Now, out of all of them, I've read the Captain Marvel issue because you had it, and the art is awful. The story is ridiculous. But many years later, I read the Fantastic Four issue. It's by Jim Lee. The art is just unnecessary. It's overproduced. It's just way too many lines, way too many stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Jim Lee, I think, is a very good artist.
But I never liked him.
I like him. He has good things and bad things. Like now that he's a superstar, it's a little too much, because there's nobody there to tell him no. But the thing is, he never has been a good writer. He's one of the most awful writers. And one of the things you can tell about a good writer and a bad writer, like you see somebody like Alan Moore, which of course he's way amazing, with very few lines, with very few words. He says many things. But a bad writer, he never knows when to stop, and he just exposition dumps all over the place because they think their audience are idiots and they just over-explain everything. Neil Gaiman doesn't do that. Grant Morrison doesn't do that. John Byrne doesn't do that. Chris Claremont does. Oh my God! But Chris Claremont just wants to. Chris Claremont just wants you to know that he's smarter than you and that he's read more than you, right?
Right.
But Peter David, he doesn't do that. Peter David instead tries to be funny. Dan Slott doesn't do that. With very few lines, with very few words,
used to not.
He expresses everything that those characters need to do and need to say. So I was reading the Fantastic Four by Jim Lee, and it's just text after text and just text and more text, and I'm like, my God, I'm going busy. It's too many words, and they're not saying anything. It's just verbal diarrhea. That was the biggest problem with most of those image books that came out during the 90s. Just the characters would not stop speaking and would not say anything interesting. Same thing with what's his face, Todd McFarlane. He cannot write. I like his art. The only one of those guys and the original image people that could write was Jim Valentino, but Shadowhawk was not his best comic. It's very bad.
Off topic.
Yes.
I think he would reform. What do you think?
What would happen if you surrounded absorbing him with highly flammable pine with lots of resin, he became wood, and you lit him up? Well, he can always reform because he's become crystal, and then maybe punched by the Hulk.
Good
and
question,
he gets splintered all over the place. Yeah. But the thing is, even though his body is splintered and off to the wind, his mind is still active, and it will take forever. But little by little, he would reform again. He's done that many times. Like I do believe it was an issue of the Hulk. He was falling, and he wanted to touch like a piece of steel to become like invulnerable and keep fighting the Hulk. But instead, he touched a piece of glass, and he became glass.
I remember that.
He fell to the ground, and he shattered. And then little by little, he got his form back again.
Yeah, that's why when the Hulk would always like get him near a bunch of rocks, and he would turn. He would accidentally touch rocks and a rock or some other, like you said, and then the Hulk would shatter him the crap out of him. But Thor, same deal.
But if you remember Amazing Man, do you remember Amazing Man from All-Star Squadron?
Yes.
Well, Amazing Man had a son, same powers. He became part of Justice League Europe, and in an issue of Starman, the second Mist or the third Mist, however you want to count. You know how Mist has a son and a daughter. His son takes over. His son is killed by Jack Knight, and then his daughter takes over, and she becomes the new Mist. Okay, and because she wants to be a criminal mastermind, she decides to kill a bunch of superheroes to prove herself, right? So she decides to pick a fight with Justice League Europe, and she proceeds to kill or incapacitate most of the members. And what she did when she confronted Amazing Man is she painted a wall, like she had a glass wall, and she painted the glass like brick, or she painted the glass like steel. So when they were fighting, he automatically touched the steel or the wood wall. It turned out to be crystal. She shot him, and he splintered, and he died. So in the case of Absorbing Man, whose power comes from Asgardian magic, he can reform himself. But in the case of Amazing Man, whose power is more scientifically based, if he's shattered, apparently he dies. So really, same powers, different companies, different characters, different consequences, if you will. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, answer your question about that, Canadian Spider-Man is really probably not until Byrne came along and did it, because only Kirby really messed with the way the thing looked a lot. As far as an artist coming on after him, it was pretty much at the time, even when Kirby left FF, they said, you got to draw it like Kirby. So everyone pretty much drew him that same. By the time Kirby got done refining him, as you can see here, the big, as you can see, let's see, here's the answer. He changed and evolved for Kirby's whole run like that, but that's all Kirby and different inkers. Then they kept him pretty much the same way. So no, successive artists will still had to draw in the same exact style. Then Byrne, when he took over the book after he did it for a good while, he changed him back to lumpy. And then after that, no, everyone was pretty much had to draw him a certain way. He changed him eventually back to the way he was, the old, the smoother stone type deal. And then after that, other than like when Carlos was talking earlier about the stupid spiky thing, different things than that, he would look different because of different artist styles. But as far as evolving or changing his look that much from successive artists, Byrne and a couple of others, but not many. So no. Maybe Byrne might have been the only one to do that, right? Usually you said draw him the way, they have people draw him. Now he would look different because of a different artist, but he was the same design until Byrne made him lumpy again. Yes, I forgot to put a picture up there. But Byrne sort of did it before he did it. Because as I showed the picture earlier, and I didn't show one from his later stuff, but where is it? When Byrne, when he went back to visit his old self, see that lumpy version there? When Byrne did that in FF, of course, this looks different because Sinan inked it. So yeah, I hope that answer helps a little, because it's cool stuff. Well, let's see here. Oh, here we go. That's a good one. Let's see here. Missed the beginning of the stream. At one point, could Ben Grimm change his form at will? Wasn't it tied to idols or statues? We talk about Tamazuma? No. There was a point there where he could control his transformation. And that was the Buscema stuff we showed a picture of, right?
I remember there was a few times. I remember when he recures him, he stops being the Thing to be Ben Grimm more.
Yes, I have a few
because
times.
he can change at will, but the problem is, in fact, Luke Cage Power Man becomes the new member of the Fantastic Four. But the problem is, after the transformation, he starts losing control and becoming more a dick. And then like something's wrong with like his adrenaline level or something.
Yeah, that was this area here.
It was like it was just 2 issues, and then he has to go back to being the Thing. And then during the John Byrne Thing series, when he's in Battle World, he can go back and forth from being the Thing to being Ben Grimm, being the Thing, just automatically with no problem. That's why he stays in Battle World, because he can switch back and forth at will.
But there was a point also where,
let's see.
if you look here, he got
Diablo.
remember he got changed. Yeah, but I'm talking about this. This is a specific point, and I'm glad he brought that up because I totally forgot this, and I'm pissed off because this was one of my favorite eras. For a while there, Ben got changed back to Ben Grimm, as you can see from here. This great buckler just shows how powerful Joe Sinat is. Look how great that is. And he's for a while he left the group, as Carlos mentioned. Luke Cage, Power Man, Hero for Hire, took over his spot for a while. The Puppet Master tried to use him to attack the FF, and later, from that point, Ben got Reed made Ben an exoskeleton suit that looked just like but it looked, he could put it on, it would look just like the Thing. It was giving powers, but nowhere near like the power he had before. And then on a place called Counter Earth, where the FF was fighting the High Evolutionary and Galactus and what have you, after defeating them, Galactus got a little bit pissed off at Ben for, I forget exactly why, but he pissed him off. So in order to punish Ben, he blasts him, and Ben gets turned back into the Thing. When he was able to wear the suit and still be the Thing a bit. And as you can see right here, this is him just discovering it, that he's the Thing again. This is FF number 176, which is weird because it's pretty traumatic for him. Yet that was a comedy issue of hilarious proportions.
I remember that because he was wearing a Thing suit, right? And then they
Galactus punished him.
I remember one time, this has nothing to do with anything, but it's just my favorite Fantastic Four issue ever. And a blind man shall lead them.
Oh yeah! Oh my God!
The Fantastic Four fight the Frightful Four. There's an atomic explosion. The radiation from the atomic explosion turns Ben Grimm into a human. They go back to New York. Dr. Doom has taken over the Baxter Building. The Fantastic Four have no powers, and then they have to use machines created by Reed to duplicate their powers.
Right.
Johnny wears a suit so he can flame on. Sue has this thing to turn invisible. But Reed uses these things that are like mechanical gloves to stretch his hands, and mechanical feet to stretch his feet. And Thing has to use he has to remote control a Thing robot,
a puppet,
right?
Thing, yeah, as he called it,
right? And the Fantastic Four are led by Daredevil through all the defenses of the Baxter Building to confront Dr. Doom. Now, the only way they defeat Dr. Doom is if they all get their powers back. So Reed has to shoot them with cosmic rays. They all get their powers back, including the Thing, and he becomes deformed. And the Thing is just beyond mad. He confronts Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom starts shooting at him with all the various weaponry in his arsenal, in his armor, and the Thing just won't back down. He finally confronts Dr. Doom, and he's so mad that he had to turn into a monster again. He shatters his hands. He just grabs his hands and just crushes them. And then Doom is defeated, and then he leaves. And it was just so beautiful.
This is that scene right here where he's pissed off.
That's a wonderful comic book. And as we were talking about that, the animation, they did that in animation, and it's beautiful.
The thing about that, what was interesting to me about that is on the animated series that second season, that wonderful FF second season of the '90s cartoon, everyone. In that comic you're talking about, Ben just Reed just turns him into the Thing without asking him. He just blasts him. They changed it a little bit on the cartoon, and I would argue it adds even more to the character of Ben Grimm. Remember we were talking about that his heart so much we've been talking about, where none of the others can reach the neurostimulator, as Reed called it. they all are telling them Ben not to do it, but they're all about to be die if they didn't, and he was the only one that could. He's in Ben Grimm form, barely reached the thing to save everybody. He lands on the thing and he turns it on into himself to turn into the thing to save everybody and to save everyone from Doctor Doom. And he even says, because he'd asked Alicia to marry him, and earlier in the episode, he even says, "Sorry, Alicia," and he very dramatically, and turns back into the thing. And then, of course, like you said, he goes after Ben and he's pissed. I mean, he goes after Doom and he's pissed, and he crushes Doom's hands.
Yeah, that was great, because you're just seeing the thing just go for broke and said, okay, this is not, no, you've made me you've destroyed my future, you've destroyed everything I wanted. That's it,
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny. That was a great thing. That those guys, what was it, Laird and what's the other guy's name?
Eastman.
Peter Laird. Yeah, Eastman and Laird. What they did, to tie the Daredevil origin to the Turtles origin. And the thing is, what's great about that? That's very whatchamacallit, it's very meta, but it doesn't detract from either origin. It just, gives it a little push, I enjoyed that. It doesn't fundamentally change any of the characters or any of the origins. It just adds a little thing,
Yes, indeed. Well, man, I've kept you long enough, dude. Unless you had anything else to add about the thing, man, I've really enjoyed it.
Just one thing. I think we recommended a lot of really good comic books. If you haven't read them, you should. They may not change the world. They may not change fundamentally the Marvel universe, like something like Secret Wars or something like that. But they're just really good, solid comic books. And that's the one thing you could always depend on. The thing, they may not be the greatest comic books ever, but they were just solid comic books, entertaining comic books. And right now, how comic books are, that's the best thing you can say about a comic book. You can read it and just be entertained, because I've been reading some Marvel books, like I've read Empire and Secret Empire, and my God, they're so bad. It's just awful.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, and those are mega crossovers, and people at Marvel expect you to not only buy the miniseries, they will expect you to buy all the tie-in issues. And you're like,
yeah,
but these are awful. Why should anybody buy one, much less 100 of these, So that's the one thing that I recommend about some of those Marvel Toon ones. Not all of them, but, like the Project Pegasus one was good. The one with Sandman was, the one we talked about, the Thing versus the Thing, was really good, because, he sees just that no matter how much he wants to change the past, he can't. He's going to be the Thing. Or that annual that I mentioned, or the Dan Sloth issues, they're just solid stories that are fun and interesting. You can just lose yourself reading them. And that's the one thing that I can always say about some of those 80s comic books or those 70s comic books. They may not change the world, but man, they just really give you a good time. And sometimes I think that's the best you can hope for. Not everything is going to be Watchmen. Not everything is going to be V for Vendetta. But there was like a year of Fantastic Four comic books where they just fought a bunch of really great villains. They fought the Frightful Four, the introduction of Medusa, the introduction of the Inhumans. It just really great, solid comic books that I have great memories of. Or when they fought Galactus the first time, or when they the introduction of Gabriel the Airwalker. That was some great issues. So I think that's what you should try to look for. All these old 80s comic books that they're just good, solid fun. Because right now, I think both Marvel and DC are so into arcs and mega series and mega crossovers that they no longer tell one-off tales. And I think it takes a better writer to write a self-contained comic book and to write a 10-issue mega saga, because
Yes.
sometimes there's not enough story for it. I think Jim Starlin is a very talented man, but Infinity Gauntlet is boring. And the reason it's boring is because it goes for 6 issues. If it was a 4-issue miniseries or a 3-issue miniseries, it would have been more solid and more interesting, Or then you have things like The Three Jokers, which is one of the worst comic books I've ever read in my life, where they just they try to create controversy, or they try to, get people to read those comic books just because there's something new and different, or just the illusion of something new and different. So I think some of these issues that we mentioned, they're just good, solid fun, And there are a lot of really great character issues, character building issues, where you get to know more about the characters, where you get to learn more about what motivates them. And I think that is just a lot more fun than read a gigantic mega saga that's just filled with sound theory signifying nothing.
Not
So
a damn thing. Yeah. No, well, I appreciate that, man.
No, not a problem, not a problem. And like I said, and if you guys can, I don't know if you know me from my appearances here on Clobberin Time.
Oh, yes.
If you can, please go to YouTube, go to my channel. It's called Comic Mania MX. Of course, you shouldn't listen to it because it's all in Spanish. But if you can do me the great favor of subscribing to it, I would appreciate it a lot, because I'm really hoping to get 1,000 subscribers so I can monetize the channel and maybe get paid.
There's a link to it there's a link in my description below, everyone, for Carlos's channel.
Thank you.
Please go subscribe. I'm putting it in there all the time, man.
Thank you very much. Please do. Like I said, it's all in Spanish, so most of you or all of you won't be able to understand it. But I do show a lot of.
Thanks, Chris Persia.
I do show a lot of images, and if you know your comic book history, you can just pretty much follow whatever I'm saying by just looking at the pictures. So there you go.
I appreciate it. I got you, man. Hey, Chris Persia, always an honor and a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Nice to meet you. See ya.
All right, well, dude, man, I appreciate it. I had a good time as always, man. We'll come up with another topic soon, coming from Carlos and myself. If there are anyone out there who cares other than me and you, we're going to be doing our Legion of Superheroes with both of us too, because we love the real deal.
Yes. So, and there you go. You like with Legion, you only have like one huge, gigantic mega saga, which is the Great Darkness saga. And everything else is just like a 1-issue, 2-issue kind of thing. But there's some of the amazing, solid, beautiful stories. And the Paul Levitt, Keith Giffen stuff from the 80s is just beautiful. There's an issue where a bunch of, terrorists accidentally kill Cosmic Boy's mother. And then he decides to take revenge. That issue is one of the best issues I've ever read in my life. Just
yes, indeed.
Beautiful.
By the way, the link to your show is also in the chat now, everyone. The link's in the chat.
Okay.
Yay, Saturn Girl. Yes, indeed, buddy.
Oh, Saturn Girl.
Yeah, man.
Great character, yes.
Yeah.
Dream Girl, too. Phantom Girl.
Of course, man. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I really do appreciate it. But Claude Paris is saying we should burn Airboy. I'm not sure what that means.
You see, and then you get mad when I tell you to die. You see, then you get on my case when I tell you to get you guys to die. I
just want you to make it happen.
Airboy is amazing.
How's it my fault? He said it.
You guys burned it. I don't know.
No one wants to hear about that.
I don't know which one of you two bastards. When you put the Airboys on the barbecue, one of you two bastards put marshmallows.
Nobody wants to hear all that.
I just.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks, but I know you got to run, so go ahead. I'll say my goodbyes to everyone if you want to run now.
See you later, guys.
Thank you, bud.
It was fun. It was great, and I hope to be back soon. See ya.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Carlos, everyone. Comic Mania, that is. Hey, I want to thank everyone out there. Smart Steve 68, thank you for being here. Earlier we had the wonderful, beautiful Purple Valkyrie. I'm sure it's very late over her. She probably had to run out, but I love you. Thank you so much for being here, Purple Valkyrie. Eric K, the great Eric K. Thank you, as always, my friend, for being here. The great Chris Persia was here, master of the wrenches. Thank you for being here, of course, as well. My old buddy Steve Mitchell, thanks, man. Just Joe 47 was here. Thank you, buddy. Mark with the C, thank you so much. Canadian Spider-Man does whatever a Canadian spider can. Thank you, sir, for being here. Doug Oberg, if you're still out there, bro, even if you're not, thank you for being here so much. Claude, I don't know this Claude Perishable person, but thank him anyway. Someone should thank him. Oh, man, there were others. And if I forget, 32 flavors of Nick Weiser. If you're still there, buddy, again, even if you're not, thank you for so much for popping in. I do appreciate it so much. I appreciate everyone for being here, hanging out with us. I hope we covered enough. I hope we made some. I hope we had got a little of it done, got the job done a little bit. There's so much to cover that when you only have a couple hours, you just got to try to touch on the best stuff if you can. You know, a little bit about the character, and a good way. I've always thought a good way to do that is to hit on the best stories and things like that, and a little bit of his history. I hope we did a halfway decent job. It was skeletal, of course, because you got a long way to go. But hey. Well, you know what? 32, we'll do that one day. We'll talk some Human Torch. Because Johnny is your guy. Well, look, I love Johnny Storm. So I love him. And he's one of my favorite characters as well. So, again, thank you all so much. I guess I will play us out here with this fantastic intro by the great Stan Loki of Loki's Mornings of Mischief. And by the way, everyone, please look into the description below. There are a lot of great links to a lot of great channels. Friends of mine on YouTube, please see them all and check them all out and subscribe to them all. Thank you so much. And here we go with the outro, courtesy of the great Loki.